Hey, what's going on, friends? It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, underway for another day this Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Happy to have you with us. Episode 802 right now in progress. It's day 103 of the Trump administration, his second term. That's out of 1460. And we are once again on a Friday on location, this time at 3rd and Lindsley, which is decidedly closer to our home base studios, back on the butt end of Music Row, just about a mile away from there. And we'd love to see you later on tonight. Hopefully, we'll be seeing a packed house tonight as we anticipate Roll Call 3.0 kicking off just before 7 o'clock. I believe that's the scheduled time start. We'll have some music from Randy Hauser, some comedy from Steve Byrne, and Jason Whitlock and Tucker Carlson will take the stage at some point after 7 o'clock. I'm told that there's still tickets available, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to get those and get those at a discounted rate. That is coming up in just a moment. Before I do all that, I say hello. I say pleasantries. Hope everybody's doing well. We seem to be in Nashville in a little bit of a pocket of no rain, but there is rain everywhere else in Middle Tennessee. So for the most of you, it's probably raining as you listen to the show right now. Before I get into that, I welcome back from home base Chris Weber, who's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as possible. Hello, Mr. Weber.
Good afternoon.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday to you and Tay-Tay.
Yeah? Oh, yeah. Oh. See, I tried to have this removed. If you're watching on Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, apparently I don't have as much pull as I thought I had in this town because I wanted to have this removed, and I got told that I would be removed.
Well,
I would be removed.
She's a little sideways, but
yeah, I bumped her. Oh. So you want me to fix her? Hold on, just a second. By the way, while I'm fixing her, say hey, Ken Weaver.
Watch those hands.
How about you?
Oh no, she's off the wall.
Oh,
Tay-Tay's off the wall now. There. Is that better? No, that's crooked too. Hey Ken, how are you?
I'm doing all right, Brother Murphy.
I'm doing better than me. I'm just going to take this home with me. That's what I'm going to do.
This is going to be a short show.
It's just if this falls,
you're going to be
okay.
Tossed,
I can't get
man.
her. I can't get her straight. So I just don't want her to fall at this point. If you're watching on Talk TV, you know exactly what we're talking about. And if you're not, you're very confused. Go over to Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and that'll.
Did they just say Taylor Swift was standing behind Murphy?
Taylor Swift is right beside me, Ken.
Yeah, that's right.
She's hanging right beside me as we speak.
Yep.
Look, right there, right there, and right there, and right there. Taylor's got big hands. Is this accurate?
The arm is a little wonky.
Those are man hands. There's no question about it, Kirby. You said it from your mouth to God's ears. Those are man hands. Anyway, Ken?
Yes, sir.
How's the weather?
Right now, Brother Murphy, it is exactly what you described. We are in between bands of strong storms.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, looks like most of this activity is south of I-40. And the band that the next one to come through Nashville right now, sitting right now just west of a line, Clarksville down to Dixon, Centerville, Hohenwald, Lawrenceburg. So it's still about an hour west of us, but it is creeping to the east. So we're going to get some heavy rain with this one, too. And it could spawn some severe thunderstorms. We are under a severe thunderstorm watch until 5 o'clock. So that means any storms that come up between now and then have the potential to go severe.
Well, here's the great thing. We're live and we're local and we're ready to go. We will shift to any sort of severe weather coverage that we need to shift to at any moment.
Yes, sir.
That we need to do it. But it does not appear these are, a lot of wind, a lot of rain, some hail maybe.
Yeah, we've had some hail. Listeners were telling us about the hail they were getting, and then there's some lightning in it too. Right now it looks like hail and damaging winds are the main threats. But as always, in Middle Tennessee, you cannot rule out a tornado.
Okay. Well, I mean, and if anything pops up, Ken's back there in the newsroom. He's monitoring everything. I'll try to monitor from my site here at 3rd and Lindsley, and Chris Weber will pop in with any additional information. But right now, there's just thunderstorms all over the joint. So, I mean, it's like a big U around Metro Nashville right now. So if you're in Murfreesboro, you're getting hit. I mean, Huntsville's getting hit down there in Alabama, Florence. I'm looking at Dixon, you're getting popped. If you're in Clarksville, you're getting hit right now with some severe weather. But unto each life, some rain must fall, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Hey, Ken, my grandma always told me that my problem was I'd argue with a stump post.
Yeah.
And it's true. And frankly, if Ma's looking down on me from heaven right now, I would say to her, I'm making a pretty good living at it. Hello. So anyway, and and I'm going to argue with the stump post here. So, I've been counting up Trump's days in office, right? Y'all hear me do that?
Yes, sir.
At the beginning of the show. So 103, I say 103 of 1,460. That's the total days in a presidential administration. So 8726 has written in on the super text line, and they are attempting to correct me on this.
Okay.
Saying, Murphy, there are 1,461 days in each presidential administration due to leap year. Ooh.
Oh.
So I think he's got me, right?
Seems like it, yeah.
You think he's got me, don't you?
Well,
when does a president get inaugurated? When does he take the oath?
January 20th.
At what time?
I can't remember.
Noon.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh. So that's half the day right there.
Oh.
So if we really want to get technical, it's 1,460 and 12 hours.
Man, you have been on a tear this week, dude.
Jeez. I don't know. I don't think I have enough enemies, so I just want to piss off all my friends. Like poor Freddie. Freddie communicated with me this morning again. I don't know if our conversation was stuck in the mayor's craw or what, but he expressed that it was a little more sparring than he had anticipated. That's what he called it, sparring.
Remember that, yeah.
And that's fine. And I said, well, sometimes my passion manifests itself in frustration or even anger. But I do not intend for that to translate into disrespect. That's what I told him. Now, sometimes it does, but whatever. And so this morning, he said, no, it's fine. And I will say I get frustrated by people who communicate primarily with signs.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And he said it's certainly they're right, but I think our ability to have an actual conversation is much better. And I left it alone. I said, whatever, that's fair. And I said, thanks again for the conversation. Look forward to the next time you're on. But I want to point this out. I'm an open book, right? And so I'm not trying to out Freddie in a private text communication between myself and him. But I don't think he's saying this in confidence when he says, I don't like people who communicate primarily with signs. It's certainly a right, but I think our ability to have an actual conversation is much better. Here's what I would say with this. And here's what I would say to people that agree with Freddie O'Connell. And that's fine. What I did not see is Freddie O'Connell walking out of his State of the Metro address and having a conversation with any of those people. What I did see was the mayor going back downstairs into the parking garage and getting with his security, I'm sure he has some level of security, into his whatever vehicle. I mean, maybe he rode, maybe he did not walk out on the street and walk back to the mayor's office in front of the people that were protesting. He could have done that. He could have had a conversation with them. I'm sure that they would have welcomed the conversation. I don't know if they'd have been respectful or not. They don't necessarily need to be respectful. They feel like he disrespects them with the 27% property tax increase. We're going to talk about that in the aftermath of that discussion. And as a matter of fact, we're going to bring two things together in the 6 o'clock hour. One, several of you have mentioned that you missed the conversation yesterday. And if you did, it's up on the podcast, and you can catch it at your leisure, or you can catch it just after 6:30 this afternoon or evening, because we're going to re-rack that broadcast. Because we're on location at 3rd and Lindsley, and because we're going to be getting so close to the broadcast time from here, we've got to shift over to that. And so in doing so, we're going to re-rack that at 6:35. I'm not trying to get off early. I'm not trying to squeeze 30 minutes out on you. But I am to say that we're going to be milling the room and getting the room ready for the big event, because doors are opening here at 6 o'clock. So if you missed that conversation and want to rehear it, it was a lively one. I'll give you that. And I'll give Freddie credit. As we said yesterday, he hung in there. I mean, I was annoyed with him. I was annoyed. And my annoyance is not anything personal. I don't have anything for or against Freddie O'Connell on a personal level. As a matter of fact, I think from a personality standpoint, I don't have anything against him. Freddie is, a nice enough guy. Well, my grandpa's a nice enough guy, but I don't want my grandpa running Nashville either. That said, what I don't like is when Freddie, like so many politicians tend to do, they pee on your leg and tell you that it's raining. And Freddie spoke to an audience of people yesterday morning at 10 o'clock, and he clearly told them the rationale behind the necessity to raise your property taxes. He didn't tell you how much he was raising your property taxes, but we figured it out. It does not take a math genius to figure it out, although I could not do it. It took someone that was better at math than me, but we put our pencil to paper and figured out that it's an effective tax rate increase of 26+%. So you can say 26, you can say 27. One way or the other, on the heels of a 34% tax increase 4 years ago, you're looking at a 27% tax increase this year. Freddie claims that there will be some homes in Nashville, Tennessee, that have their actual payment in property taxes go down. I dispute that. I don't believe for a second that, because in order for that to happen, if you have a 26% increase, you have to see your property values go down. It doesn't, not just stay level. You would have to see your property value go down by a percentage of at least 20% in order to make any of that math work. And Freddie said yesterday, people in my neighborhood, they're probably going to end up paying less in property taxes. I don't believe that for a nanosecond. I don't think there will be a single resident of Davidson County who sees their property taxes going down. And it doesn't matter if you rent a home either, because your property taxes will certainly affect whatever your landlord has to pay is going to impact what they're charging you when you make your next lease agreement with your landlord. So if you have any thoughts on that, today's the day, because it is a First Amendment Freestyle Friday. I'd love to hear from any of you, 615-737-9986. You can give us a call. You can also hit us up on the super text line at 615-737-9986. 8379 says, I disagree with Freddie politically, but give him big respect for engaging with you live on the air. It took balls more than any previous Nashville politicians. Yeah, once again, I have mad respect for him to do that as well. And I hope that we can keep those lines of communication open because I think it's important that he present himself to more conservative-minded people in the state of Tennessee, more conservative-minded people who live in the metro Nashville area, and more conservative-minded people who live in Davidson County. And believe it or not, there are more than Davidson County gets credit for, if that makes sense to you, because we are – in Davidson County, I say we, I don't live here, I live in Wilson County, but in Davidson County, it is obviously a blue area in what is predominantly a very red state, and there aren't that many of them. You can, count them on one hand. Nashville, Memphis, maybe a little bit of downtown Chattanooga, maybe, and, and maybe a little bit of Knoxville, maybe. The city, not the county, the city. Other than that, you can't find a lot of blue areas around here. So they are the outliers. But that does not mean that there are not significant amounts of conservative-minded or libertarian-minded people who have concerns about increased property taxes and how that might impact their ability to stay in the city. And that goes to the heart of what annoyed me most about what Freddie was saying. His attack on the people who were outside with signs was an attack on the residents that have been in this city for a long, long time. Now, I came here in 2021. Y'all know that. But there have been people that have been here a long, long time that communicate with me, 20, 25, 30 years, who say that as they are on a fixed income or they are middle class or maybe even lower middle class, they are being priced out of an ability to pay to stay in Davidson County. And they have to make decisions. I mean, literally decisions about what they have to cut in their lives in order to afford an increase on their property taxes on their homes. And those people are real. Those people aren't fictional. Those people aren't just sign-toting folks who just want to bitch about every tax increase that comes along. These are Nashville people who have been here as long as you, Freddie, who are desperate for any relief that they can possibly get and have seen themselves essentially squeezed out of the city that they love. They see it in fact. In other words, they see it when they see their property tax bills, and they see it all around them. And I talk to folks all the time who say that, progress is what progress is, and I love the city that I moved to in 2021. I think it's absolutely fabulous. But there are some people that are concerned that it's a city that they don't recognize anymore. And I think Freddie O'Connell was dismissive of a lot of those concerns as he spoke with us yesterday and as he addressed the metro area. And that's what I have to say about that. Body cam video of this Abrego Garcia cat demonstrates that he was what we thought he was all along, and the Tennessee Highway Patrol, they were well aware of it. We're going to discuss that on the show today. We're talking Trump in Tuscaloosa. Man, Donald Trump absolutely nailed it last night at the University of Alabama. Introduced by head coach Nick Saban, former head coach of the Crimson Tide. What a great event. Got a chance to catch most of that last night. I'm on location, so I'll be limited in the snippets that I'll be able to play you, but I'll relate some of that to you. He absolutely destroyed it. I have a question for you as we open up First Amendment Freestyle Friday in the phone lines. Is Doge working, and can Doge really work? The Department of Government Efficiency. Elon Musk sat down with some of the youngsters that he has working on his team, and I say youngsters, early 20-somethings. One of them, Chris, did you see that Big Balls made an appearance?
I saw that, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Weaver, have you reported on this in the news, Weaver? This is big news.
I have not reported it.
They did a sit-down. Elon's Doge people did a sit-down, kind of a round table with Jesse Waters of Fox News, and Waters is like, which one of y'all's big balls? And this little kid raises his hand. That's me. I'm big balls. And Elon's just sitting there with this smile on his face. It's like, man, this kid's got a future, because he does. He's got a set on him. So we'll discuss that as well, whether or not you believe Doge has worked. It cannot and will not work unless Congress gets involved. And I don't do things like grade the president of the United States, because I think these things are silly, especially on these arbitrary days like 100 days in office. But were I to grade him, I would lower his grade based on an inability to get to Congress and get Congress in action. We'll talk about that next on the show. Your call, 615-737-9986. Plus, we're at 3rd and Lindsley tonight, and we encourage you to come on out. Even if you don't have tickets right now, there are still limited tickets available to this event tonight, and I would love to see you. I know Tucker Carlson would love to see you. Jason Whitlock would love to see you. Kirby would love to see you. And we can. I'll tell you how in a moment. It's 23 after the hour on Super Talk. Did you know Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? They staff all of their locations, frankly, with more people than they need on an average day. But they do this for a very specific reason, because they want to be there and ready when an emergency does pop up out of nowhere. Friends, if you've noticed how hard it can be to get a right now appointment at a vehicle repair shop, there's a reason for that, because a lot of dealers are like 2 weeks out. Because they don't have the staffing available to take care of you right now. Not at Eurofix. At Eurofix, they offer quality repairs, and they beat the dealer price that the dealer offers you. Since 1999, they've been doing this. Plus, they have 3-year nationwide warranties and the staff to fix your car now, not tomorrow and not next week, but right now. So if you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes said, we're never going to be too busy for our customers. That's what it's all about. Family owned for 26 years. Call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit online at myEurofix.com.
That second band of strong storms is getting closer to Nashville right now, just west of Nashville, continues to move east. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice has reached an agreement in principle to settle a lawsuit brought by the family of Ashley Babbitt. This story and more coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yes, sir, Mr. Weaver. 28 minutes after the hour, Matt Murphy and you for the next, 3.5 hours or so on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Some nasty weather coming through, but nothing that shouldn't be beyond us by 7 o'clock tonight, and a good opportunity for you to come out and see some of the folks you watch on television that you enjoy on podcast, people like Jason Whitlock. Of course, Tucker is the big name tonight. Tucker Carlson will be in attendance at 3rd and Lindsley. There are opportunities for you to meet Tucker himself. Those are some VIP all-access badges that you can access when you go to fearlessrollcall.com. That's fearlessrollcall.com. But if you want to come tonight, you go sign up for those tickets. We invite you to do that online at fearlessrollcall.com just to make sure that, because there are limited seats, there's still enough for you, but they're limited enough that I would encourage you to go ahead and get them online. And you put in the offer code 997, and you're going to get a special deal anyway. I think it's half off, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's right. So 997 is your offer code. Go ahead and get those tickets. Come on out and see us. There are a few seats still available at 3rd and Lindsley. Several of you are hitting me up on the Super Text line and suggesting that if I take away the 12 hours on the front end of a presidency to total up to 1,460.5 days, that I have to give the 12 hours back on the back end of the presidency, and so that makes up for the total 24-hour day that involves the leap year, to which I say, no. None of that works that way. That's what I say to that. That's my argument. That's my entire argument. No, it just doesn't work.
No, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work. You guys don't seem to understand how all of this works. Murphy is right. Murphy's right. Just leave it there. It's 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Yeah, thank you. Murphy is right. Invigorating. Murphy is right. It is 3:30. It's time for Ken Weaver to be right with the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. So we're tracking this line of pretty strong showers and thunderstorms. It is over Clarksville. That line is over Clarksville, then south to Dixon, Centerville, and Lawrenceburg. Goes all the way down into Alabama. And it is moving to the east at about 35 miles per hour. Nothing severe in it right now. Just some strong storms that could pack some lightning, some rain, could see some hail. We can't rule out a threat of tornado in case it does go severe. In fact, all of Tennessee is under a severe thunderstorm watch until 5, which means anything popping up between now and then has the potential to go severe. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Department of Justice has reached an agreement in principle to settle a lawsuit brought by the family of Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by a U.S. Capitol police officer and died during the January 6th Capitol riot. We still haven't seen the details of the settlement. Babbitt's family members had sued the government in January 2024, seeking $30 million for what they allege was her wrongful shooting death by Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd. The Babbitt family lawyer said he expected the family to sign this formal settlement agreement within the next 3 weeks. And right now in the Pacific Northwest, Idaho State Police investigating a crash that killed 7 people near Yellowstone National Park last night. Driver of a Dodge Ram pickup and 6 people in a Mercedes tour van died after those vehicles burst into flames upon impact. And on Monday, the Department of Education is set to start collecting debts on defaulted student loans. Here's Bankrate consumer lending analyst and certified student loan counselor Andrew Pentis.
Not only debt collectors sort of pursuing that late federal student loan payment, but also some potential serious consequences like wage garnishment, as well as the offsetting of federal payments, like your tax refund.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got some strong storms just to the west of Nashville moving east, and that could impact your drive. Right now, impacting your drive, a couple of crashes. Off-ramp, or rather the on-ramp, partially blocked. 440 to go from actually Nolensville Pike to go eastbound on 440. Then in Antioch, we got a stalled vehicle off on the left shoulder, 24 eastbound before Harding Place. Also 24 westbound at Hickory Hollow Parkway. Police reporting a crash there on the right shoulder. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Fellas, I'm not afraid to have the serious conversations that maybe you're trying to avoid, conversations about men-centric health issues, like libido/ED. Now, I understand you don't want to talk about that in polite company, but I also understand how it can impact your life, right? And half of the guys that are listening to this radio show right now will experience some form of lack of, let's just say, ability over the course of their lives. Well, what do? Do you just chalk it up to, yeah, that's just the way it is, or do you do something about it? Do you get proactive with it? Well, I would encourage you to get proactive and go to Tennessee Men's Clinic. They are the go-to source for all things energy levels in men, especially when these are testosterone related. And if you've noticed a lack of energy, a lack of motivation or drive, whether it's at the gym or in the bedroom, it could be a testosterone-related issue. And if that's the case, get to Tennessee Men's Clinic. They have 2 locations. One is in the Cool Springs, Franklin area, the other in Midtown, and they can help. Their qualified urologist will go over you, give you an examination, get a little blood work, and you'll find out before you leave the office exactly what is going on. Tennessee Men's Clinic can be found online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or better yet, give them a call and schedule that appointment, 615-208-9090, 208-9090. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and Savory Spice is your stop shop, easy for me to say, for everything spices in our community. Look, you get to a certain age. I talk about this all the time, right? You get to a certain age where you don't want to buy the lower rung of anything. I mean, at some point, you're buying things because it's the cheapest. So you go and find the cheapest cut of meat if you want to buy yourself something to eat. You buy, the cheapest food items. You go to the discount stores. But at some point in your life, you want to up that food game, right? Well, if you're not upping your spice game along with your food game, I don't think you're doing it right, because Savory Spice has high quality spices in stock, and they don't have to cost you more money as a result. So, matter of fact, Holly and David recently announced that about 25% of their stock, they went down in price this year because their suppliers went down on what they charged Savory Spice. And how about that? Passing those savings along to you. That's what you get with a locally owned company like Savory Spice. So go see Holly and David. They're just off the square in Franklin, right next to Gray's Pharmacy. You'll smell the smells, the delicious smells of all of the spices. You can sample every single spice in the store at Savory Spice, and they know that you'll buy and restock at Savory Spice when you do sample them. So go by and see them today and tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Savory Spice. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy along for the ride on a Friday edition. Pleased that you've decided to join us. We're going to jump on the phones here in just a moment and talk with you. 615-737-9986. It is a First Amendment Freestyle Friday. That means anything goes on the phone lines. If you want to bring something to our attention that we've not covered over the course of the week, or perhaps we talked about something and you were unable to get in or we could not get to you, now's your time. 615-737-9986. Just a little signposting here to let you know what we'll be doing later on. Of course, several of you have asked, of course there will still be nincompoops in the news. What would we do without a Friday edition of Nincompoops in the News? That's happening just after 5:30. Secondarily, we do have a limited version of Friday today because I have a special guest stopping by at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Unless he's late, and if Dan Steiner is late, then we'll make some adjustments on the fly. But the schedule is Dan Steiner at 4 o'clock today from 3rd and Lindsley. Jay St. Clair at 4:35 today until 5 with Friday. I have a lot to ask Jay concerning this Texas court ruling because I'm a little confused how the Supreme Court can make a determination about one set of rules and circumstances and some lower court judge in Texas can seemingly disagree with the Supreme Court and it actually be in effect. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So all of those things happening a little bit later on. But as it stands, we're here till 7 o'clock tonight, and we would love to talk with you. 615-737-9986. Let's start off with Rich, who is next up in Murfreesboro. Rich, good afternoon. Welcome to the Matt Murphy Show. How are you?
Hey, good. Thank you, Matt. You know, I want to talk about how property tax is just immoral because you don't really own anything. Like, say Ken Weaver, who is the tightest radio newsman I've ever heard in the business. He's able to retire. That great radio money lets him pay off his house, and he's trying to enjoy his golden years with his lovely wife and his wiener dog down in the borough, and he can't pay his property tax. They're going to take away his house, and he doesn't really own his house. And, you know, the thought of him as his wiener dog getting kicked out on the street, that really fires me up.
I would agree with you that, I believe, and this was before my time, and someone can fill in the gaps for me, that Uncle Phil Valentine had a theory about the better way to pay property taxes would be associated with your mortgage. And so if the city wanted to charge you some sort of property tax that was associated with the mortgage, that if you paid cash on the front end, you had the ability to pay that property tax off on the front end. But regardless, once you had paid your mortgage off, if you have a loan from the bank, and I think I have the basics of this correctly, that once your mortgage was paid, your obligation to the state was paid and the property was yours, and you owed no further obligation to the state or to the community. I think I have the basics of that right. That's a better way to do it. But you're right. Property tax in and of itself is a proposal that suggests that you don't fully own your property at any point. And I don't know that we'll see a time in our lifetime, Rich, where we'll completely eliminate property taxes because I promise you the government's going to want to get their money from somewhere.
It's the challenge is we have this constant inflationary pressure that is always driving up prices. You see this in California where they have a proposition limiting property tax for if you stay in the home, which helps. But still, if you don't, we need at least at minimum something like that because retirees need to be able to have a fixed cost that they know what it costs to stay in their home, and it isn't inflated along with market conditions that are drastically different than the point in time at which a home was bought and the income situation in which people put away their money for retirement.
Yeah, the justification, and let me just see how you respond to this, Rich, right? The justification for property taxes are as follows, that it is a way for you to pay for socialized cost of common property. Does that make sense? Like roadways, like, access points, like, common thoroughfares, like public property. I mean, that's the justification for it. I'm not saying I agree with that. Obviously the courts have, and thank you, Rich, for the call. I want to get to a couple of others here. I understand that there are great arguments against that justification. I'm not saying that I agree with this. I'm saying that I'm offering you what the justification on property taxes are, and that is that they are authorized by state constitutions and state statute, and they provide those statutes provide the legal basis for implementation and collection. People still say, there have been legal challenges to property taxes, but the tax itself has not been deemed to be unconstitutional in my memory by the courts. But I understand that while there are concerns about how it impacts your ability to own your home or your ability to own your property, because if the state can take it from you through a lien, do you really own it to begin with? Makes a lot of sense to me. 43 after the hour. Let's go to Jeff in Murfreesboro. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
How's it going, Matt?
I'm well.
I just want to tell you, I went to Hot Springs last weekend. They had a barbecue festival. I want you to know, first Saturday in June there with a banana pudding festival. You can come to and get all the banana pudding you want. So
what?
Want to come first Saturday in June.
Does Ken Weaver know about this?
I do now.
It's at Hot Springs out going towards Woodbury.
I know. He's out there in the Murfreesboro area, and he's not told us a thing about this delicious banana pudding festival.
I had to be out there, and they had different events on the little event thing, and that's one of their events they're having coming up there every different festivals this summer. Centerville has one every year, too. I think it's like the end of May. It's a big deal for them. They have, like, recipes, and they have contests, and but I wanted to mention two lawsuits real quick. The first, I don't know if you've seen, the ACLU is suing the Rutherford County School Board all these banning books. They banned about 150 books. Well, they're tired of it, and they've took them to court. They've already lost it with that gay pride, the borough pride thing. They lost. They had to pay a big fine. The county had to lose that, so they're probably going to lose again. And also, the thing about Maine, you see that Maine dropped their lawsuit because the federal judge told the Trump administration, if you go to court, you're going to lose this transgender and their school nutrition program. They tried to freeze funds, and so Maine dropped it, so they basically going to get their federal funds back for the transgender. And I've covered high school athletes in this state in 25 years in Tennessee. I've never seen a boy play a girl sport. It ain't never going to happen. So if you want to, before these girls' sports, you want everybody to go in the locker room and check out, see if they're a female before we play. If you want to do that, I guess we'll have to, because that's what Trump wants to do. We'll get them to check and make sure they're female before they play the game. So you hang in there and have a good weekend. We'll see.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Well, obviously, Donald Trump made reference to this last night at the University of Alabama, and there was wild applause. These are young people. These are 20-something-year-old people who are graduating, and their parents, obviously, at Coleman Coliseum on the campus of the University of Alabama. And Trump said, while I'm president, we're not going to have men competing in female sports. And that arena erupted in applause. This is one of those 80-20 issues, and that's probably about right. I don't think there's more than 20% of the population that thinks that we should destroy women's sports by allowing biological males to compete in women's sports. And for those of you who are genuinely gender dysphoric, you're going to have to accept that there are certain things in society that aren't set up for you. That's the end of that sentence. One of those things would be our United States military. If you are genuinely gender dysphoric, our United States military is not for you. I appreciate that you want to serve your country. I appreciate that you want to offer yourself to service if that suggestion is genuine. But there are different ways for you to serve exterior to the United States military. The military is not set up for you. We can categorize women's and men's in terms of our United States military, but we cannot make exceptions for those people who are floating between the two and who are disrupting unit cohesion. Similarly, if you are genuinely gender dysphoric, I feel for you. I do. But you need to understand that society has not set itself up to accommodate for every singular need that you have, and certainly not if that includes your desire as a male, as a biological male, to compete against females because you have a natural advantage and you're destroying female sports. And we're not going to have that in society. Donald Trump gets that. And the Maine governor was always going to back down on that front, always going to back down. 47 after the hour. Carl is next in Columbia as we continue on First Amendment Freestyle Friday. Hey, Carl.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm great, man. I hope you are.
Yeah, I'm in a rainstorm. I was going back to Uncle Phil, and I've been an avid listener for a long time. Uncle Phil basically said, have the tax be a sales tax on the property you buy. He thought that a property turns over enough that the counties could keep up with that. He wanted a variable, depending on the county, on the sales tax amount. And I totally agree with that because you never own the property. And that was his point, too. And if he lived long enough, I think he would have started a campaign to have that, do away with the sales tax, the property tax, and roll it into sales tax. And the thing about it is, I believe Florida is doing it right now because I've heard one of the speakers, I think it was one night, he was on the radio, DeSantis was on the radio talking about it. They're in the process of doing that.
I would love it. I would love to be a part or spearhead any of that campaign. I know that the state has put on our ballots, Carl, and thank you out of Columbia. Be safe out there in the rain, buddy. I appreciate you. I know the state, we will have an opportunity to vote to deauthorize the state from ever collecting a property tax against your property in the state of Tennessee. What that means is right now, because the state relied, I guess, on property taxes before income taxes became in vogue, and as a result, the state has the ability to tax you and your property. They do not. That current tax rate is set at 0. But, God forbid, a bunch of liberals get into office in the state of Tennessee and they decide they want more of your money, and they could potentially move that from 0 to whatever millage rate or whatever tax assessment that they wanted, and the state would begin collecting taxes on your property in addition to local municipalities. What this vote would do in 2026, I believe it's going to be on the ballot, it would provide a constitutional amendment that would forever prohibit the state from any ability to assess your property some sort of tax evaluation. So that is a step in the right direction. I would see, I can absolutely see further steps toward eliminating the property tax. I would suggest that local municipalities are going to want to recoup that money in some fashion. Look, I am a libertarian. I am not an anarchist. I understand that as society, or as a society, as local municipalities and county municipalities, and as a state entity, and as a United States of America, we do things collectively in our society that necessitates a certain tax rate. I think the federal government is the biggest issue that we're trying to tackle that has gone far beyond its usefulness, that is outspending far more than it collects, and is on a trajectory for ultimate destruction if we don't do something about it. We need to see extreme cutting back. But here's the thing. Freddie O'Connell telegraphed it yesterday in his State of the Metro address. It's not just that the federal government depends on borrowing money. The states, by extension, and the local municipalities, by extension, they're depending on borrowed money too, because they get all of this money from state grants. And have you noticed how not only are they dependent on it, they're insistent on it? I've said for the 25 years that I've been doing talk radio, I've said a couple of things consistently. And one of the things I've always said is that it is the reason why it is so hard to shrink government is because it's not in government's nature to shrink or even stay the same size. It is the nature of government to grow. Because once a program becomes a part of government, it becomes a part of the fabric of what people come to expect from their government. Government will take over those things that it has no business taking over, and then it becomes a part of the fabric of government. And that's what's happening on the local level, where when Freddie O'Connell talks about depending on this grant and that grant from the federal government, well, where do you think the federal government's getting that money from? They're borrowing it against your children and your grandchildren. They're borrowing it against the good faith and credit of the United States. And one of the reasons I got so ticked off with Freddie yesterday when he's like, well, the federal, we're not getting our money. Well, we're $37 trillion in debt, bud. What you want to just continue that? Do liberals just want to continue down that road to destruction? It seems that they do, because they're suing at every step along the way. They're suing to demand that it remain a part of government, which is the very basis for understanding that government does not shrink naturally, and it takes this level of effort to get it to do so. It is 52 after the hour. More calls coming up. Dan Steiner will be on with us just after 4 o'clock. Very excited about that. He is the president of Preborn, an organization that I very, very much believe in. Dan's in town frankly, for this event, amongst other things, and we'll talk to him at the 4 o'clock hour. It is 52 after on Super Talk. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy here for an update on the Glock store. Boy, oh boy, they're getting ready. It is this month, at the end of the month, May 31st, as a matter of fact. The Glock store will have their 5th annual open house. Very exciting. Every year they throw their doors open to all of Nashville, Tennessee, and the surrounding communities. The open house is pretty famous for its incredible raffles. I saw it firsthand. I've been to a couple of these open houses, and man, this year it's going to be better than ever. Nonstop, all day long, giving you a chance to win some really great gear and great prizes, including a custom Glock handgun. Last year's handgun was valued at about $1,800, and I think it's going to be even better and bigger this year. So even if you don't win a raffle, you've got great deals on Glocks and Glock accessories all day long. Deals so good, you have to be there to believe them. I've done this, and I can't wait to do it again. It's May 31st. I'll be there all afternoon, morning and afternoon, from 10 until 2. It's the Glock Store's 5th annual open house. You can find out more info at glockstore.com or stop by. If you've never been, it's a great time to experience the incredible retail space of the Glock Store. They're just off of Elm Hill Pike, off of Briley Parkway, minutes away from the airport, and worth the drive from anywhere. It's the Glock Store.
Ashley Babbitt, wrongful death lawsuit news. Student loan borrowers in default face reckoning starting on Monday. And the world's oldest woman has passed away. These stories and more coming up at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Man, that's a dangerous gig, Weaver.
What's that?
Being the oldest person in the world.
Well, I know. I don't think it lasts very long.
I don't think it lasts very long either. Well, I can't wait to find out how old she was.
It's something.
And we will find out together in about 2 minutes or so on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're at 3rd and Lindsley. There's a little rain falling right now, but that's good. Get that rain on out of here in advance of the event happening a little bit later on tonight. While we have a bit of time, let's go back to the phones and talk with Brad in Nashville. Brad, you're up on the Murphy Show. What's going on?
Hey, Matt. Appreciate the opportunity to talk. So I've been trying to get in touch with Councilmember Courtney Johnston. I've heard her on your show multiple times. Love what she stands for. And but the city of Nashville is missing out on $10 million every year, back to back, that I've uncovered. And I think it's kind of sad. They gripe and complain about needing money, but they don't take every opportunity that they have that's available to them.
How are they missing out on this money?
There's a tax credit out there that they are due back every year that they don't get.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what you can do, Brad. If you hit me up on email, matt@murphyshow.com is the easiest one. I will get you in contact with Courtney Johnston.
Awesome.
I'll make that happen. I'm sorry that you've not been able to contact her, but directly. I mean, normally it's pretty responsive, but I'll make that happen, okay?
That'd be awesome. Appreciate it,
Yeah,
Matt.
just matt@murphyshow.com. Just hit me up, say, this is Brad from the radio talking about that $10 million, and I will get you hooked up. It is 4 o'clock. It's time for the news coming up in a moment. Dan Steiner will be with us from 3rd and Lindsley on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. All of Middle Tennessee still under a severe thunderstorm watch for about another hour. We do have some strong storms and heavy rain in the neighborhood. In fact, right now, if you're on 65 going any direction, you are in heavy rain all the way between Nashville and the Alabama state line. And that means folks in South Nashville getting some of the heaviest rain right now. Franklin getting it. Dixon, you are almost in the clear, even though you're getting some heavy rain. Same for you, Clarksville. So, yeah, beyond a line, west of a line from Clarksville, Dixon, down to Lawrenceburg, it is starting to dry out. West of there, this may be our last bout with it. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Justice Department and the family of Ashley Babbitt have reached a settlement over her death during the January 6th U.S. Capitol riot. We haven't seen the details, but Babbitt's family members sued the government in January 2024, seeking $30 million for what they say was her wrongful shooting death by Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd that day. Byrd fired one shot, striking Babbitt, a 35-year-old Air Force veteran and supporter of former President Trump at the time, in the shoulder. She later died from her injury. And we understand from the Babbitt family lawyer that they are going to sign a formal settlement at some point in the near future. On Monday, the Department of Education set to start collecting debts on defaulted student loans. Here's Bankrate consumer lending analyst and certified student loan counselor Andrew Pentis with more.
The Department of Education has promised that over the past 2 weeks, it's been reaching out to these borrowers to let them know of the situation, the gravity of these consequences. If for some reason you think you might be late or even in default on your loans and you haven't heard from your federal loan servicer, the best thing you can do is to reach out.
First Trump administration paused student loan payments during the pandemic. Now about 5 million borrowers going to face mandatory collections for the first time in more than 5 years. Elsewhere in our nation's capital.
The White House budget proposal calls for $163 billion in cuts to federal spending, targeting the Departments of Education and Health and Human Services, USAID, and the Environmental Protection Agency. The blueprint being sent to Congress includes a 13% increase in defense spending. A president's budget proposal is essentially a wish list, the administration putting on paper its policy priorities with funding figures. Now it's up to Congress to develop a budget and pass it. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
And a Brazilian woman who was the world's current record-holding oldest person died yesterday at nearly 117 years old.
Sister Ina Canabaro was a Brazilian nun whose hobbies were sharing miniature paintings of wildflowers, cracking jokes, and reciting the Hail Mary. She would have turned 117 on May 27th. She died at the age of 116 this week. Her great-grandfather, a Brazilian general who helped fight for that country's independence. And as a child, she was so skinny people didn't think she'd survive into adulthood. Instead, she thrived, becoming a nun who was actually honored by Pope Francis on her 110th birthday. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, drivers, as you can tell, very heavy rain, especially if you are on 65 in Nashville. Got a lot of crashes to deal with, too. Right now, over on the East Loop going westbound, a crash there at Jefferson Street. Then in Lebanon, got an injury crash. Highway Patrol on the scene, 40 westbound at Highway 109. Back here in Nashville, the on-ramp is partially blocked, 440 eastbound from Nolensville Pike. And in Berry Hill, got a crash, 65 southbound at Armory Drive. In Antioch, right shoulder blocked by a crash, 24 westbound at Hickory Hollow Parkway. And then in Fairview, an overturned vehicle is in the median. Everybody's slowing down to take a look at it. 840 eastbound, right before Pinewood Road, Highway 46. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, back after it, the Matt Murphy Radio Show, hour number 2, cranking up right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's about 7, almost 8 minutes after the hour. Thank you for being around. If you are out and about in your automobile or if you have a window anywhere near you and you're within the sound of my voice, odds are there's a little rain falling on you right now and maybe even some heavy wind, maybe even some hail. There's some nasty storms moving through the metropolitan area, moving through Middle Tennessee, and we'll keep you up to date on all of that from the newsroom. And Ken Weaver, he's got his eyes on the radar. We'll keep our eyes on the radar. We're broadcasting from 3rd and Lindsley in anticipation of the big event that we've been telling you about for several weeks now, Roll Call 3.0. It cranks up with a VIP session tonight at 3rd and Lindsley. And most of y'all know 3rd and Lindsley. It's just an iconic bar and grill in Nashville. Been here for so long, hosted so many great functions and great events, great concert venue. But it's going to be host to Randy Houser tonight, who's a fabulous country music artist, as y'all well know. Steve Burns going to present some comedy to you, and the finale, if you will be a great conversation between Jason Whitlock, host of the Fearless podcast, and Tucker Carlson, who is in town to talk about faith-driven men and how to kind of take society back from the political left that seems to encroach itself on so many aspects of our cultural, the culture that we want to have, not just in the state of Tennessee, but all across the United States of America. Toward that end, I am pleased to be joined in our position here at 3rd and Lindsley, right in the atrium, by Dan Steiner, who is the president of Preborn. It's an organization that I absolutely adore. I was telling Dan right before we came on the air that, we have many fine, wonderful sponsors of the Matt Murphy Show, and I love every single one of you. But there are some of them that are just intimately near and dear to my heart. I talk about Men of Valor. And the wonderful, wonderful Christian work that they do in our prison systems as a prison ministry. I'm so proud to be affiliated with them. And I'm equally, if not more so, proud to be affiliated with Preborn. Dan, it's so great to have you in Nashville. Welcome.
It's great to be here, especially my initiation for the city this week is in this iconic bar and grill. This place is the very essence of what one would think a honky-tonk. Is that the right terminology?
That's exactly right. We are in a honky-tonk.
So I, like Trump, I'm a teetotaler, and, ever since I came to Christ, and so I don't get to these places very often.
Well, it is going to be filled with faith-based folks later on. So, anywhere we can get them gathering, we'll do it. But I absolutely love, I don't know how it happened, but I love that Jason settled on 3rd and Lindsley for the VIP event because it's a little bit of a juxtaposition. But it's good to have you in the city. And it's wonderful to have an opportunity to talk about the organization that is Preborn.
Well, it's our privilege. Thank you for not just having us on, but more importantly, the hundreds of women who have been saved from the tragedy of abortion because of you and the listeners of WTN and the Matt Murphy Show. We're so thankful, brother, and thankful to you as the loyal audience of what Matt does every day. You're a family, and together as a family with Preborn, we're saving lives every day and leading people to Christ. And so,
well, I want to kind of reset for those. We get new people every day. We get new listeners every day and every week. Tell us about your story and about how Preborn came to be.
Preborn is birthed out of a time of prayer. I get up between 4 and 5 every morning to pray, and during one of those times I really sensed God's broken heart over abortion. I came to Christ and I just asked him, so what can I do for you? And he showed me in a very unique way that he sees every abortion, which is obvious, and it breaks his heart because it says in the Word of God that these babies' days were ordained. Every one of their days, their entire lifetime was ordained before there was yet one of them, and it's cut off because most of the time of very selfish reasons. And I said, what can I do that would alleviate your pain, Lord? And that set me on a journey. It's like, what really stops abortion? The pro-life movement has 3 components to like a 3-legged stool, Matt. One leg is legislation, education. Legislation just in 2022 stopped Roe versus Wade.
Mm-hmm.
But the year after, there were more abortions after Roe fell. So that didn't work so well. And the second is...
Wait, say that again? So Roe v. Wade. So I want to pause there for just a moment.
Yeah.
Because for so many folks who believe in this issue as we do, that abortion is wrong, and that we need to shower these women with love as a mechanism by which to prevent these needless deaths. a lot of us said, well, thank the Lord. Finally, after 50 years, we've seen the light, and the battle is won. We did it. Dobbs v. Jackson took care of business.
Yes.
Not the case.
Boy, all that we had hoped for turned out to be quite to the contrary. There's 100,000 more abortions in 2023 than in 2022 when Dobbs and Roe versus Wade fell. And why is that? It's because of chemical digital abortion. The insidious abortion industrial complex planned for this back in 2017. They knew that it would eventually fall. Mm-hmm. And so they structured a sophisticated telemedicine, telehealth network to distribute the deadly abortion chemical cocktail of RU46. And that's where it's at today, where 65% of all abortions are done chemically, and you're in my neighbor's bathroom's teenage daughter's bathroom. And it's horrific. The effects of this pill. I just talked to a woman today who took the pill, and she bled for days. Like she said, I had stacks of towels under me.
Oh, no.
It's just miserable. And this is the best thing that can happen is they take this pill, they think it's easy, they bleed out for days, and most horribly, they have to dispose of the body of their baby.
On their own.
Yes.
Think
about that. Think of and in the bathroom that they have to go every day for the rest of their lives.
And we already know, I mean, study after study indicates the psychological impact to the mother. And so often that burden that they carry for the rest of their lives. And can you, imagine how that is exacerbated with them being alone and having, I would hope that they would reach out to someone, a faith-based leader, a medical professional, someone else. But the idea that they're doing that on their own, and they've been sold the idea that this is a magic pill. You take away the pill and the burden, quote unquote, of the pregnancy is taken away from you, and it's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's totally the opposite. We're talking hours and hours of bloody trauma, days of bleeding, and the horrific thing that you have to deal with the baby that you just – It's giving birth. They go into labor. It's a full-on labor by themselves with nobody else there. Only it's a lot bloodier. And it's just a miserable thing that we're doing to American women.
And there was a recent study out that the FDA is simply not being honest, the Food and Drug Administration.
Right.
And imagine that, the federal government not being honest with us. But the FDA is simply not being honest about the danger of these medications.
It isn't. Before the Obama administration, RU46 was relegated to a 7-week window under the close supervision and with informed consent of a doctor. But that's no longer the case. Barack Hussein Obama moved it to 10 weeks. But the reality of it, Matt, is these girls don't know how far along they are gestationally. A lot of times they don't even know who their sexual partner is, who the father of the baby is, and they get the pill unsupervised. It's only effective to 10 weeks. They take it at 14 weeks or more. And guess what? It doesn't do the job completely. Maybe the placenta didn't come out. And then 3 weeks later, 5 days later, she's got sepsis. And so the study you talked about looked at insurance claims. This isn't hyperbole. This isn't political. This isn't making anything up. This isn't ideological. These are insurance claims. 867,000 insurance claims about the abortion pill from 2017 to 2023. And what they found was that there is an 11% of those women end up in serious medical hospital situations. Now, if that were any other drug, the FDA
pull it off the market
instantly.
Pull it off the market. Over 1 in 10.
Yeah,
right.
1 in 10. We're talking.
Pull it off the market.
1 in 10 of 800,000 women is 90-some thousand women that have been hospitalized, and hello. Where's the government on this? That they're ghosting this thing because they don't want to deal with it. And so they're going to have to step. And I'm hoping that this will be something that is not a political hot potato for the Trump administration, but rather it's just an internal, intergovernmental thing with RFK to be able to, if we really care about the health of women in America, not just their physical health, which is clearly endangered by the study, but then their mental and emotional health afterwards, which you've alluded to, that they live with the horror of this thing. Even with a mechanical abortion, they don't have to dispose of the body of the baby. They don't see the baby. Here, they're cleaning up their own mess. This is horrific, and this is what preborn exists to stop.
Well, and we in the state of Tennessee when Dobbs v. Jackson happened, the state had a trigger mechanism. They had already passed legislation that would trigger an immediate cessation of abortions in the state, and they do not allow, legally, these abortifacients are not allowed to be delivered into the state. And so a lot of people around the state of Tennessee live in the comfort that, well, we can't help what's happening in California. We can't help what's happening in Washington State. But we in the state of Tennessee, we're comfortable that that's not happening here. But that's not true either.
It is not true from two perspectives. One is, who's going to know if she gets on the internet and has something delivered to her mailbox? The answer is nobody. The second one is this whole thing has created abortion trafficking where like Governor Newsom in California says, we'll pay for you to come to California, your plane ticket, we'll pay for your abortion, we'll pay to put you up in a hotel, we'll babysit for you, and we'll fly you back under Medi-Cal. And so we've got a whole abortion trafficking industry that's been created in Southern California, Hawaii, Las Vegas, Colorado, where women are coming to these states for their quote-unquote abortion vacations. And so that's preying on conservative women in conservative states like Tennessee, not to mention the fact that the abortion pill is relatively anonymous, being delivered to, can have anything delivered to your mailbox. Who would know?
Right. Well, on the silver lining, though, I mean, Dan, tell me we have made progress. I mean, would you suggest that, I mean, with everything that there is still to be done, you have to be pleased, I would expect, that we saw what we knew to be a horribly decided Supreme Court decision is no more. We do see states like Tennessee and many, many others that have pushed away. The pro-life movement, in my opinion, I mean, I'm 51 years old. I feel like it is stronger and more robust than it has ever been. Much work to do, but it is a strong movement still.
Oh, it is. And the fact that it's from the perspective that we want to please only one individual here.
That's right.
That's God.
That's right.
And the fact that America said, no, we're no longer nationalizing abortion. This is a favor that will garner the smile of heaven. But also the fact that we've got a very friendly administration now, which is wonderful. We've got the White House Faith Office. We've got very pro-life people that are in Trump's ear. He's pro-life himself. I know that personally from interacting with him, very much so. And so it's a brighter morning here for the pro-life movement. And Preborn is putting together and has put together a telehealth platform to compete against this as well, where we can get on the internet and find these girls that are searching for the abortion pill before they order it from an abortion site and get them to talk to a nurse. And what we found, Matt, is that if she can talk to a nurse, it triples the likelihood she'll come in to our clinics. If she comes in, sees her baby on ultrasound, no matter how abortion-minded she is, it helps.
It is the basic foundation of Preborn, and I love it so much because you, Dan, and I don't want to speak for you, but the organizing principle of Preborn to me is love.
Yes.
And love the mother, shower her with love, and have her presented with her baby.
Yes, that's exactly
through an ultrasound, and let the miracle of love take over from there.
Yeah, we're the compassion movement. We're the gospel movement. The best thing we can give her is a relationship with the one who loved her so much he would die for her. That's Jesus Christ. He did that. But it's very practical, as you said. It's maternity clothes, it's doctor visits, it's housing, it's whatever she needs, so that she can choose life. And then following her for 2 years with diapers and cribs and car seats, and there's girls all over the country that are putting their babies in dresser drawers, using those as layettes because they don't have the money. The issue in most cases for women is financial. If you can solve that for them by taking care of some of their needs, which Preborn does for free because of the listeners of the Matt Murphy Show and many others, it checks the box. It helps them to be able to make that decision that they otherwise they couldn't see their way to do it because they couldn't afford it. But if you say for 2 years, baby food, cribs, car seats, diapers, which is a big thing. We're there for them with all of this practical, loving. Because it's one thing to say that you're against abortion, but got
to follow up.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
That's right. You got to follow up, even after the baby's born. And Preborn, you do that so well. People about the the simple ask for folks who are listening, it's not a lot of money, and it's all about presenting the ultrasound in front of the mother. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, so again, ultrasound, if she sees her baby, it doubles the likelihood that she will choose life in almost every case. And we can help underwrite, and we do, thousands of these ultrasounds every year. $28 helps underwrite an ultrasound for a girl, helps pay for the nurse or the ultrasonographer to give her the medical service for free. And you can do that. All $28 of your $28 goes to our clinics.
That's right.
It's five ultrasounds for $140. We also underwrite ultrasound machines, which last for like 10 years. And, day in and month out, showing women their babies, that's a $15,000 ask. And so, for a very low threshold, you can come in and actually make a big difference. And what's the URL? Is that has?
Well, several people are asking the website for preborn.
Yeah.
And it's preborn.com, right?
Preborn.com. I don't know if you have a slash.
Matt.
Preborn.com/Murphy.
Murphy. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Preborn.com/Murphy. Yes, sir.
We'll get you in. Yes, I figured out what you were saying.
So it's tax deductible too. That's a good thing.
And folks, just go to the website, go to preborn.com, and you throw the /Murphy in there if you don't mind. But do this today, and I mean it's just a blessing to you to be able to do it. One quick question before we have to go. Several people have asked me this on our little super text line here, and that is, we know that you've spoken to our president. Have you had a chance to sit down with our Health and Human Services Director yet?
I sat down in September with RFK.
Good for you.
I was in one seat. Charlie Kirk was in the middle. RFK was on the other side. And I introduced myself to him, and I said, Bobby, what we do is we're the competition to put Planned Parenthood out of business. He looked me straight in the eye, Matt, and he said, that's really good.
Well, okay, that's a step in the right direction, right?
So we've got people in his ear right now from the
Good.
White House Faith Office as well that are, run by Jenny Korn.
I know a lot of people were very excited when he was selected for a lot of reasons, vaccinations and other types of government mandates, but most of my listeners not so excited based on some of his previous positions on the abortion issue. And thankfully, we've not seen any movement on that front, at least any negative movement on that front.
That's correct.
So we want you to get in the ear of RFK and continue working on him, Dan.
He doesn't have any choice with this thing with the new findings on the abortion pill. He's got to address it, and he's in charge of the FDA, and so this is going to be really good.
Well, Dan, thank you. I invite people to go to preborn.com/Murphy. More information there, and give as you are able, whatever you're able. If you're blessed,
thank you.
And you can give enough to provide those ultrasound machines, do that. But otherwise, give what you can. Dan, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for being in such a help, and your listeners as well.
Enjoy the honky tonk.
It's going to be
fun.
fun.
It'll be a good time. 26 after the hour. Quick timeout. We'll be back in a moment on Super Talk. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. Look, bug season is here, right? I warned you back in February that it was coming, that we would have fleas and we would have ticks and we would have roaches and we would have spiders, and they would all want to descend on your home. They're little communists, all of them. And they want to come into your home and take what's yours. Your cool, if it be hot, your warmth, if it be cold, and your food always. Stop this with U.S. Pest. U.S. Pest. .com is the website. You go there and you'll find all things U.S. Pest. The protection that they provide, the free inspection that they provide, termite protection, crawl space service, and full-service pest control, all available to you at U.S. Pest. Common Tennessee pests include things like termites, which threaten every home, and brown recluse spiders, which threaten every home, and ticks and fire ants and bugs and all of these things. We need to eliminate that from your life with U.S. Pest Protection. The number is 590-1260. That's 590-1260, or online at uspest.com. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for United Structural Systems. It is raining cats and dogs where we are at 3rd and Lindsay. At least it was a minute ago. I don't want to lie to you. I think it's tapered off just a little bit. But if it's raining where you are, this might present a particular problem if you have waterproofing issues in your home. If you do, you might know it, right? I mean, United Structural Systems likes to say you kind of smell it before you see it. And oftentimes you see it, and you need to make the call that so many others have made to United Structural Systems. Homeowners simply trust USS. They've been keeping homes stable and dry since 1994. Call 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855 for our friends at USS and see what they can do for you. Oh, almost 30,000 satisfied customers since 1994. That's a lot of satisfied customers. USSTN.com online, USSTN.com.
4:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories right now. Radar showing heavy rain from Nashville all the way down to Alabama. Nothing severe, though. However, we still have about a half an hour under this severe thunderstorm watch. We're keeping an eye on it for you. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Traffic, too. Right now in Nashville, Channel 4's Jeremy Finley reports Antioch High School shooter Solomon Henderson had signed probation paperwork vowing he would not have a gun or ammunition the very morning of that attack.
Henderson and his mother signed paperwork in which both agreed he would not be in possession of guns or ammunition. Here's what else we've learned. The reason he was on probation, 3 months before the attack on October 24th, 2024, he brought a box cutter to Antioch High School. He was arrested and charged with bringing a weapon to school property while threatening to cut another student. He was also charged with attempted reckless endangerment. Court records show he was then put on probation. He signed the probation paperwork on January 22nd, 2025, went to school, and then, as we know, opened fire in the cafeteria and shot and killed Jocelyn Correa Escalante.
Now, this information, according to Channel 4, comes from Henderson's own juvenile court records. We're learning of a settlement between Ashley Babbitt's family and the Justice Department in the wrongful death lawsuit the family filed in 2024. Babbitt was among a group of people inside the U.S. Capitol on the day of the January 6th riot when she was shot to death by a U.S. Capitol police officer, Michael Byrd. The family sued for $30 million, but we have not seen details of this settlement. And on Monday, the Department of Education set to start collecting debts on defaulted student loans. Here's Bankrate customer lending analyst and certified student loan counselor Andrew Pentis.
The student loan default will stay on your credit report for up to 7 years. So that means it can impact and drag down your credit score for that long of a period. Which means that if you want to apply for, say, a personal loan or a mortgage over the next handful of years, this late student loan payment would make it harder to qualify.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got a stalled vehicle blocking the left shoulder, 65 southbound after Harding Place. Then in Berry Hill, police reporting a crash. It's going to be 65 northbound at I-440. In Antioch, right shoulder blocked. Looks like a wrecker's on the scene for this crash, 24 westbound at Hickory Hollow Parkway. Then in West Nashville, a crash reported 40 eastbound at 46th Avenue, 51st Avenue, exit 205. In Lebanon, got an injury crash. Highway Patrol reporting 40 westbound at Highway 109. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's Matt Murphy, and I want to tell you for a moment about Cover Nash. Cover Nash is a wonderful organization local to our community. And here's the deal, folks. I don't want you calling an 800 number. You don't know who you're talking to on the other end of the phone. And frankly, most of those people on the other end of that 800 number, if they're dealing with insurance, they are dealing with a particular insurance product. Here's why that's bad. I'm not knocking anybody doing it. Here's why it's not good for you. The insurance company becomes the customer, and you become almost a commodity to the insurance company. With Shane Ring and Cover Nash, shopping all insurance agencies. So you are the customer and they are the product, and he's going to find the right one for you. You see how that flips the script on the insurance companies in that way? So they have to compete for your dollar. Plus, Shane Ring is your local expert when it comes to all things insurance, and you don't have to wait to open enrollment. You can access this in real time, and you can make this happen for you and your family. Today, I've sat down with Shane and his company. I've learned so much. He's located in Brentwood, and you'll learn as well about the outrageous and unnecessary costs that many of us pay through medical insurance. Shane will cut through all of that with you at Cover Nash. Call 615-465-0023, 615-465-0023, or visit covernash.com and book your appointment today. Create a healthcare plan managed by you, not by the government, with Cover Nash. We're having a great time out and about. I'm getting chided. I'm getting the proverbial finger wag from a lot of you super texters telling me that 3rd and Lindsley is no ordinary honky-tonk, that 3rd and Lindsley is a valued treasure in this community. I agree with that. I completely agree with that. I mean, I say honky-tonk as if it's a wonderful thing. Turn my overall volume a little down there. If I'm okay and not over my – thank you very much, Kirby. I appreciate that. 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Would love to hear from you, particularly for those of you with any questions or thoughts of a legal matter or a legal variety. And particularly, I lean on you on the I got to go back up on that. I will lean on you on the super text line in this regard because you know what we've got? It might be limited in nature. We might have to squeeze it into 20 minutes instead of 50, but we still, on a Friday, have Friday. It is indeed. I am broadcasting from 3rd and Lindsley. Normally, Jay St. Clair is broadcasting from his home office in Birmingham, Alabama. Regardless of the distance between the two of us, we remain best buddies. He is my legal correspondent. He's a great Tennessee man. He's the finest legal mind I've ever met in my life, and he's a heck of a dice roller as well. It's Jay St. Clair, everybody. Hey, Jay.
Hey, buddy.
How's it going, Jay?
You know, man, if I were any better, I would be racing Miatas at Barber Motorsports Park this weekend.
Is that going on this weekend?
Oh, yeah. Now, the Indy cars, it's the big IndyCar weekend. They got a Mazda race. They practiced today, Matt, and the fast lap in a Miata, 136.
In a Miata?
In a Miata.
Now, your fast lap, last time I talked, I think, was it 139?
Well, no, I'm at 38, but a professional race car driver drove my C5 Corvette Z06. I mean, this is over 400 horsepower. A professional race car driver, 137.
And somebody's riding a Miata around at 136 out there?
At 136. And our buddy Joel, the assistant track manager, he calls it the races, because they race out there every year, the Miatas. He calls it the Miata Pinata, because there's about 40 of them that are within a second of each other. And so it's like a scrum all the way around, and they can't go 2 laps without wrecking.
So did they beat and bang on one another, I guess?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man. That's awesome. I would love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. Well, I wish you were out there, too. Have you raced any this year in the Miatas? I know you were doing that. You were doing some team racing, right?
Yeah, no, I haven't this year. Though we're not going to go to Daytona this year. I think they may cut back to 2 cars, which, frankly, I think is better for the team. And that I may lose, as they say in NASCAR, I may lose my ride.
Oh, no. Oh,
yeah,
no.
Well, it doesn't really break my heart. It really wasn't working out like I wanted it to. I mean, it's a big time commitment to travel, and frankly, I'm not fast driving another guy's race car.
Well, that's tough. You've told me this, and I declared to you, and just to pull the curtain back, when Jay got his track car and he was going out to Barbers, and I was going out with him, I was riding my motorcycle out there, and I would see him run around the track, and Jay took me around the track and said, "Matt, you can get behind the wheel," and I said, "No, sir. Yep. I'm not doing that because I'm not wrecking your car."
That's right. And I wrecked what's his name's car, and he cried like a baby, like he'd lost his firstborn, Jerry.
Jerry.
Cried like he lost his firstborn child, and I think that's kind of traumatized me a little bit.
Jerry, that thing was that. Wow.
Piece of junk.
That was
what
you said it.
Piece of junk. And Jerry, I hope you're listening. It's a piece of junk.
I will never forget the first time I met Jerry, and I know 90% of the audience won't care about this, but the 10% that will, I hope you enjoy this story. But Jay, I met Jerry, and he was just talk your ear off. I mean, he talked me down, and he's showing off his car. He's so proud of that, as you described it, hunk of junk, and he's showing me the engine. And I know enough about engine. My grandpa's a mechanic, and I looked and I was like, "Jerry, what's this bolt doing out?" And he's like, "Oh no." He had bolts falling out of it, and he was supposed to go on the track in like 20 minutes.
Oh no! First time I went out there with him, we went out one time with a loose wheel, and the wheel came off, and then the next time we went out, and the hood pins weren't in, the hood flew up. He said,
Let's talk the law for just a few minutes, Jay. Okay. I know Donovan's waiting. Donovan, hang in there, but I got one quick question. Jay, can you explain to me? I thought the Supreme Court spoke on the matter of the Alien Enemies Act, and now this Texas judge has disagreed. I mean, maybe they did not speak to the specific question, but this goober judge down in Texas said, well, this isn't an invasion, and everybody knows what an invasion is, and the Founding Fathers didn't mean all of that. I don't know if you've been following the story, but what do you make of it? And I expect that the Trump administration is going to push this back to the Supreme Court pretty darn quick.
Yeah, here's what I believe. I don't have all this committed to memory, Matt, but this is going to be close enough. Now, the Supreme Court did not decide whether the presence of these illegal aliens as a group constitutes the action necessary under that law. They didn't address that. The only question they addressed is if somebody is being expelled under this law, do they have a right to a hearing?
Right.
That's all they decided. They didn't decide does the law apply at all.
Right.
And so this judge is saying, no, this only applies, they're claiming it only applies if it's a war. I got to be honest with you, man. What this judge may be doing, we'll wait and see. I don't know. But this could be a very good development for Trump. Because he's going to address the big issue of, well, are we at war, in effect, with these people? And he may say yes. Under this law, yes. And then that decides it for all of them. There isn't a person-by-person decision. Keep in mind, this judge was appointed by President Trump.
So he's giving them the ability to act as for lack of a better word, as a class, right?
That's right. No, I think he certified a class, and he said, no, I think we need to decide this issue, and we're going to decide it for everybody. So
they can't come at it one. They can't want it. We're not going to one at a time. We're mass communicating.
We're mass communicating.
I like it. Well, no, I feel at ease that once this moves up the food chain, regardless of what that particular judge had to say, but I hadn't thought about it that way, that it tees it up for all quote unquote enemy combatants or the enemy invaders, as the Trump administration.
No, that's right. And I would say this about that, Matt. They've thought about this for years. I mean, it's really, really clever strategies in a lot of ways. But I got to be honest with you, they're stretching the law in a lot of places, and they're doing it very intentionally, and they knew that. But I think in the end, I mean, the number of illegals crossing the border, Matt, is almost down to zero.
Oh, I know. I mean, the
effect,
the net effect, yeah,
right.
No question.
And I think the shock and awe approach, a lot of it is just scaring people away. Right?
That's right.
They know that it's closed, and there's already people beginning to self-deport.
Jay, Scott writes in, and on a question of the Miata, he says, I want to readdress this real quick, and we'll get to a few calls. Is that 1 hour and 36 minutes when you said 1:30? No.
It is 1 minute and 36 seconds around a 2.3 mile track.
And what are they? How many turns? 14, 15?
Well, different people number them differently, but I think the track says there's 17 turns.
17
and
turns.
there's no long straightaways. It's mostly corners. So, yeah, they're hauling the mail. And Miatas, their top, my top speed's 120 because straightaways aren't that long. They probably can't get up till like about 110. But, man, they go through the corners like go-karts.
That was another comment that somebody made. 1012 said, I've heard Miatas are rumored to be as close to perfectly balanced as you can get.
Well, that rumor is true. They are great little platforms.
Yeah. And inexpensive if people are interested in getting into track-type racing like that. Inexpensive entry point, right?
No, it is, and parts are plentiful. Blow an engine up, you go buy an engine for $500.
Wow.
And parts are everywhere. No, it's a great. I almost pulled the trigger on one. I'm glad I didn't, but that's what. And I did it because I wanted to do. I was thinking about it because I wanted to do this racing. But then somebody said I'd get bored because these guys. I mean, these are hopped up cars, and I'll tell you a little story. Now we'll get off on the law, but they have the rules real tight, Matt. So that they can't spend a whole bunch of money. And basically the engine has to be stock. Mm-hmm. You can't modify the engine, particularly on most parts. You can't modify pistons. You have to have stock pistons. Well, in a racing engine, part of what makes a racing engine great is that it's perfectly balanced. And in particular, all the pistons weigh exactly the same. I mean, within a gram, man.
Right.
Well, there's manufacturing tolerances in the pistons, and, they may be as different as 3 or 4% different. Because in a street car, it doesn't matter. Well, in a race car, you want them weighing exactly the same. If you're building a race engine, what you do to get the pistons the same, you drill the bottom of the piston and take enough metal all so they all weigh the same. We can't do that. So you know what these guys do to get perfectly matched pistons?
Pick them out themselves?
They go by 200 pistons and weigh them and get the 4 lightest pistons. That's not really helping to hold cost down.
No, that's a way to do it, I suppose.
But that's it.
Awesome.
If you want to win races, that's what you do.
Just because a couple of people have asked, and we'll get to the law. So you're around a 138. These Miatas 130. What do the open wheel guys do around that track? Do you know?
Okay, well here, yeah, I can tell you exactly what it is. Here's the progression. So for what I've got, like street cars, converted into track cars, braking 140 is fast. Yes. Anything under 140, that's a minute 40 seconds. That is fast. If you go by a 170,000, 170,000 Porsche GT4 Club Sport, that's a $175,000 car. You can turn a 130. Okay. If you get a Porsche GT3, a race car, a factory race car, you can turn a 125. If you are a world-class motorcyclist, the track record for two-wheelers is a minute 22 seconds.
Wow. Okay.
So, you see the progression that's going on. Sunday, the Indy cars will be racing there. And I guarantee you to get the pole position, fastest a motorcycle's ever been around a racetrack, man, that's a minute 22 seconds. To get the pole position at the IndyCar race, you will have to turn 1 minute 6 seconds.
Wow.
Incredible.
That's a fast lap. We're talking, for those asking, about Barber Motorsports in Birmingham, Alabama, one of the finest tracks in the United States of America, and maybe the world. I don't know. Yep. I've never been around the world to see some of those tracks, but I would suggest that Barber is one of the finest facilities. People that know say Barber is one of the finest facilities in the world. So there you go. And Jay's got it in his backyard.
Yeah, 25 minutes from my house.
Let's talk to Donovan real quick before I have to take time out. Donovan's got a question for Jay St. Clair. Hey, Donovan.
Hey, man. How you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I got a constitutional question for Jay. I keep hearing all these news reporters and everything saying, well, their constitutional rights were violated. What kind of constitution covers illegal immigration? I know it covers immigrants, but what does it cover for illegal immigrants?
That's a good question.
Great question, Donovan. Yeah,
yes,
great question. And the answer is in the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. It's one of those amendments that was after the Civil War during Reconstruction. And their intent was to give all former slaves legal rights, including due process. And not all slaves were citizens. And so the way they wrote that, Donovan, they said that states must give all persons due process of law. So that's where that comes from, Donovan. They didn't have illegal aliens in mind when they wrote that, but they used the word persons, and persons apply even to illegal aliens.
Well, and the 14th Amendment defines U.S. citizenship too. And so they, in that amendment, right, and you've taught me this over the years, Jay, I mean, they use words on purpose.
Oh, no, it's very intentional because they talk about citizenship in that they use the word because some of the slaves, man, weren't citizens.
Right. No, it makes perfect sense. All right, 52 after. If you've got a question in for Jay St. Clair, we'll get to it as we can. 615-737-9986. Jay's on until 5 at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Affordable, convenient, and comprehensive medicine. It is Grace Point Healthcare. At Grace Point Healthcare, they are your primary care provider. At least I want them to be. All of the treatment decisions made between you and the medical staff of Grace Point, well, it's made between you and the medical staff of Grace Point. They do not allow an insurance company to get between you and your doctor. That's the bottom line. And in order to do that, they are what is known as a direct pay provider, meaning that you pay Grace Point. Now, you can apply to your insurance company for reimbursement after the fact, but the bottom line is this. They've seen far too often at Grace Point, and I talked to them about it when I sat down with Grace Point in Franklin. They've seen far too often insurance companies try to get in the way and make medical decisions instead of the doctor making those medical decision. That's no way to get good health care in America today, and they don't do it at Grace Point Healthcare. So if you are thinking about changing your primary care physician, I would encourage you to contact Grace Point and see what they can provide. They have the basic Smart Care plan, $69 a month, unlimited office visits for the entire year. Grace Point Healthcare, 599-6868. That's 599-6868. You really can't afford exceptional health care at your convenience. It's right there in Franklin. Grace Point Healthcare, modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. If you're thinking about improving the property that you have, if you're thinking about building on that property, might I encourage you to go over to stoltzco.com, and I'll spell that out for you in just a moment, and see the incredible process that they go through to build you a customized building on your property. Pole barns like you've never imagined. They pride themselves at Stoltzco in producing higher quality buildings at reasonable prices. They provide custom solutions all throughout Middle Tennessee. As a matter of fact, they are the leading company in this community, in this state, in the creation of post-frame buildings, and they take pride in it. They can build you a barn-dominium, of course. These are beautiful homes known as barn-dominiums. Find out more by going to the website. Pole barns, garages, foundations in concrete, equestrian spaces, event spaces of all shapes and sizes. Improve the value of your property with a post-frame building built for you, specific for you by Stoltzco. Customized structures that will improve that value. They have all manner of projects, and they want to sit down and talk with you at Stoltzco. You can go online at stoltzco.com. That's STOLTZCO.com. Once again, that's stoltzco.com for more information. And if you have a question, they've got answers at Stoltzco, and all you've got to do is reach out to them via their website, and they'll get to you. stoltzco.com.
We have an update on Ashley Babbitt's family's wrongful death lawsuit. That story and more at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, just a minute or two left in Friday, our session with Jay St. Clair, an abbreviated session. We're live at 3rd and Lindsley today, and we'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Want to try to slip Tina in here real quick. Tina, you are up with Matt Murphy and Jay St. Clair. Do you have a quick question for Jay?
I do. Hi, Jay. Good to talk to you.
Thanks,
have a question about money or cash. My money says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So how do stores get away with saying they don't accept cash?
Ooh.
That's a really good question, Tina, and that's probably illegal.
Okay.
But they just count on nobody taking them to court about it. The funniest examples you see of this is where people owe some, maybe to an ex or someone that they dislike. And so they'll pay off a $1,000 debt in pennies.
Right.
And well, that's legal tender. And so I think the answer to your question, Tina, is the way they get away with it is nobody takes them to court.
Okay, because I was wondering, because I see it on my dollar bill, and yet I've tried in places to pay with cash for things, not with pennies, but with regular money.
Right.
And they said, no, only credit cards. And I think that is totally wrong.
Well, it is totally wrong, but, the world's not perfect.
It's a weird world.
It's a good
I know,
example.
but we need to challenge them.
No, I agree.
I'd take them to court, Tina.
I'd sue them, Tina. To take them to General Sessions Court. I say it only takes two things to file a lawsuit, $400 and a crayon. Actually, you can get in General Sessions Court for $137.50.
Huh. That's all it'll cost you. $137.50. Tina, and by the way, if you ever are looking for a place that will accept your cash, Matt Murphy.
No, I understand, but I like to pay with cash, and I don't like them telling me you can't pay with anything but a credit card.
I would love it. Tina,
I've left my stuff on the counter before because of that.
Well, Tina, I hit me up because I would love to take up your calls. I would love to challenge you. This is my kind of thing. I appreciate the call, Tina. Thank you very much for it. Hit me up, Matt@murphyshow.com, and we'll take him to court. And I've got a good lawyer. We'll win too. Jay, time has run out. I love it. You know how much I do. Thank you for everything.
I love it, and I hope to see you soon.
I think we will see one another sooner rather than later, my friend. I'll bring the golf clubs. I'll bring the golf clubs, and you bring the dice, okay?
Well, I'm making a reservation right now.
Let's do it. There's Jay St. Clair. There's Friday. We've got 2 more hours to go on the Matt Murphy Radio Show. We're on location at 3rd and Lindsley. We'll tell you all about it in just a moment. Things are starting to pick up. A big night. We'll be back in a moment.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and the heavy rain now out of Nashville. We've just got some light rain falling for the most part. Some of the heaviest stuff south of 40, east of 65, right there east of Smyrna and Murfreesboro. Looks like that severe thunderstorm watch should be allowed to expire any moment now. I am looking at Channel 4 right now. They're reporting on a house fire caused by a possible lightning strike. This is in the subdivision on Oak Point Drive. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. We have an update on Ashley Babbitt's family's wrongful death lawsuit. The Department of Justice has reached an agreement in principle to settle. Babbitt, shot by a U.S. Capitol police officer during the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. She later died. Well, the family's lawsuit was for $30 million filed in January of 2024. We haven't seen the details of this settlement, but the family's attorney says he expects they're going to sign a formal settlement in the next 3 weeks. Meanwhile, that officer involved, Michael Bird, who shot Babbitt, was cleared of any wrongdoing following an internal investigation. Right now in the Pacific Northwest.
Around 16 miles outside of Yellowstone National Park along a rural highway, Idaho State Police say a pickup truck and a tour van hit on Thursday night. Both caught fire. The driver of the Dodge Ram pickup died, as did 6 people inside the Mercedes passenger van, which was operating as a tour vehicle. The van had a tour group of 14 people inside. It's unclear where they were from or if others were injured. Idaho State Police say they're investigating the crash. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Here's some money news about home ownership. It's costing more, slipping further out of reach for most Americans. According to data at Realtor.com, it says a home buyer needs to make at least $114,000 a year. And in Nashville, someone needs to make $145,200 a year. And the Department of Education set to start collecting debts on defaulted student loans on Monday. Here's Bankrate consumer lending analyst and certified student loan counselor Andrew Pentis.
If you are in default on your federal student loan, meaning that you're 270 or more days late on your last payment due date, then you could start to face these consequences of debt collection, which include not only debt collectors sort of pursuing that late federal student loan payment, but also some potential serious consequences like wage garnishment, as well as the offsetting of federal payments, like your tax refund.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Clarksville police reporting a crash 24 westbound after MLK Parkway. We've got in Williamson County the off-ramp partially blocked. 840 westbound off-ramp to southbound 65. Police on the scene there. In Smyrna, TDOT reporting a crash 24 eastbound at Sam Ridley Parkway. Back here in Nashville, an accident reported by police 40 eastbound at 46th Avenue, 51st Avenue. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. It is the Matt Murphy Show, underway for another hour. Hour number 3 starts right now, 5:08. Thank you for being with us. Good to be with you as well. The rain seems to have stopped, at least at our location at 3rd and Lindsley. If you need to know where 3rd and Lindsley is, don't come out and see us because it's right there in the name. We're at 3rd and Lindsley. It's a Nashville institution, of course. There's a big night going on tonight as we kick off Roll Call 3.0 with Jason Whitlock, Tucker Carlson. There's going to be music. There's going to be fun and frivolity, all kind of things going on tonight at 3rd and Lindsley. And it's my understanding, I was just talking to Butter. That's his name, B-U-T-T-E-R, Butter. I was just talking to Butter, and he said that there are still just a few tickets available for tonight's festivities. Tonight is, it's 18 and up, but it is both men and women are invited to come out. So bring your lovely spouse and come out as a couple. You can find tickets at fearlessrollcall.com. That's fearlessrollcall.com. Put in the offer code 997 to get a very special deal. With that in mind, if you come out tonight, you'll see me. I'll be here right up front, and you'll see folks like Jason Whitlock, like Tucker Carlson. They're kind of the main event, having a very an incredible conversation a little bit later on. We got country music coming up. We got some comedy coming up as well. So you're invited to stop out. And then, of course, tomorrow is the big event at Rocketown. That is a men-only event, as this is a roll call for men, for faith-based men to take action to kind of get the culture back in the United States of America. And there's a big VIP event happening tomorrow night as well that is a quote-unquote unisex event, too. You can find out more about that as you go to fearlessrollcall.com. That is fearlessrollcall.com. Give us a call at 615-737-9986 as we tip off in the Friday 5 o'clock hour, a First Amendment Freestyle Friday session. Anything on your mind, if we've talked about it over the course of the week or even if we've not, it's up for grabs. We had a caller during the last moments of Friday, Tina, I believe her name was, mention this concept of legal tender. And, your money says it right there, that that money is good for all, debts, public and private. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what the caller indicated. And asked Jay, what's up with that? Why are some businesses allowed to just take cards? I don't know if there's any if there's been a legal case about this. I don't know if there's been any legal response, but we've had a lot of response on the super text line, and it's of great curiosity to me. I would guess, and this is strictly a guess, I've never really considered the matter because I've slowly become kind of a card guy, a debit card guy or a credit card guy. I try to carry cash on me because I think that's the way my grandpa would have wanted me to do it. But I admit that often it is the case that I don't have any cash on me. Now, I know some folks think that that's just not, doing your civic duty, that you ought to have some cash on you at any given time because, what happens if you're not able to use those cards? I get it. I understand it. But I'm just being honest with you. A lot of times I just don't have it on me. But I've never considered what I would do if I only had cash and a place of business refused my cash. It would probably tick me off like it ticked Tina off. It would probably frustrate me like it's apparently frustrated a lot of you. Don writes in and says, on that cash/legal tender issue, I challenged Little Caesars Pizza. I ordered a couple of items. I'm diabetic. My sugar was dropping. I was stuck waiting on my laundry at a laundromat. They refused to accept my only form of payment, which was a $50 bill. I told the manager that I would sue him or her. She took the bill. By the way, it was around the dinner hour, and I just watched them take several cash payments. I knew she could break the bill. My order was $21. So they were planning on refusing Don's money, and he said he challenged them on it, and they didn't do it. 9988 writes in and says, about your last caller, I think it's legal. I think it is legal to deny cash. If it is posted on the door, then a consumer is made aware before entering. In Jay's example of pennies for a debt owed, the debt is already there and the service was already rendered. If nothing is rung up, there's no service rendered, there's no debt. That being said, ringing them up and giving them the total and then denying cash is illegal. So go ahead and sue. Nick says the reason they don't want you to use cash is because it's the creditors and the bankers make money on cash, or can't make money on cash. They make money on your credit card or debit card transactions. By the time your transaction changes hands 10 times, that money that you used is already gone. I would think that it's a little bit simpler than that they simply can't teach kids how to make change anymore. I mean, imagine. I mean, and by the way, if you want to freak one of them out, I mean, if you are paying in cash, and I will do this, I don't have a lot of change. I can't remember the last time I had a pocket full of change. I mean, every time I get change, it automatically goes in the change bucket, right? I am well on record as wanting to establish a world where there are no more pennies. I don't want pennies in my world. I want a penniless society. That doesn't mean that I want a cashless society. I want a penniless society in the world. 80% of the pennies that exist in people's homes, in their change buckets, in their change containers, in the cushions of their seats. It exists away from circulation, if you will, or lost. There are billions and billions and billions of dollars in pennies that have been lost over the years. Pennies are useless. Round up or round down to the 5 or to the 0. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't have a problem going to a dime system. And I know that might freak some of you out. We used to have a half penny, and we got rid of the half penny. It's not as if we have not done this in the past. We got rid of the half penny when it became unnecessary because we could go to a round up whole cent. We can do the same thing with a penny and, frankly, with the nickel. Right now it costs almost 4 cents to make a penny. You heard me correctly. In production, manufacturing, the cost of hiring the people to actually do the job and the materials provided, it costs almost 4 cents for every penny created. It's ridiculous, and it shouldn't be the case, and we should eliminate the penny, and I wouldn't have problems eliminating the nickel either. 615-737-9986. Well, Matt, I'm a cash guy, writes John, but I learned in the bar business there are more ways of scraping off the top, sticking cash in the pocket, mix in kids that don't know how to process cash when I get it, but I'm still cash, and I don't think the place should be allowed not to accept it. A lot of places, it spiked during COVID, right, where we want, because, dollar bills, $5 bills, $10 bills, $20 bills, they're little germ catchers. And so we wanted to eliminate that. So a lot of places went cashless during COVID and stayed cashless because a lot of venues, isn't Nissan Stadium cashless? I think Nissan Stadium's cashless. Kirby just gave me the thumbs up. Bridgestone cashless? Cashless, right? So how can they do that? How can they get away with it? Because nobody's challenged them on it, I would imagine. Oh, you know what I bet they do, though? I know how Bridgestone and Nissan get away with it. I just thought about this. If all you have is cash, they have kiosks for you to go get debit cards. That's exactly how those big facilities get away with it. I'm telling you, I remember this from my last visit to Bridgestone because I wondered that myself. It's like at a business this large, at a facility this large, how can they get away? Because some people surely only have cash money and they want them to spend too. They do it by you can go to a kiosk. It's the same way they do at Sam's Club or some of the membership clubs that don't take cash at the gas pump. You can go into the business and you can buy a card with your cash. You can exchange it dollar for dollar, and then you can go out and use the card as opposed to your cash money. 1300 says, I agree, cut to the dime. It's easy to count. I mean, why wouldn't we? Now, back to the point that I was making before I got sidetracked about eliminating the penny and the nickel. If you really want to freak somebody out, you go into an establishment like a convenience store and buy yourself a cold drink, buy yourself a Snickers bar or whatever, and let's say she rings it up and it's $4.58. Give them $20.08 and watch their head explode. Like, they will not understand why you're giving them 8 cents. They will not understand how to math it in their heads. If you do it after they punch in the number and it tells them what to give you back, because if the item costs $4.58, doing the quick math in my head, you're going to get $15.42 back. So if you give them an 8 cents, you're going to get $4.50 back, or 58 cents so you can get a $5 back, and it'll freak them out because they can't do math. The people behind the counter at the convenience store can't do math anymore, folks. They just want you to stick your debit card in for your $3 transaction and be done with it. And speaking of this subject, I saw a hilarious news report. Some of the most hilarious things in the world are found on Instagram or the TikTok. And it was a hilarious news report from the early 90s. It's when Burger King started accepting credit cards. The amount of people that were laughing their asses off at the idea of some schlub having to yank a credit card to pay for a $3, meal deal, a Whopper and fries and a cold drink at a Burger King. And they're like, what dumbass doesn't have $3 in cash? Who has to put a fast food item on their credit card? And now there are plenty of fast food places that don't take cash at all. 4574 says if you're not 100% debt free and have money in the bank, you really shouldn't be giving financial advice. Just my opinion. Doesn't have to be yours. I love you either. What financial advice am I giving? 4574. What do you mean, giving financial advice? And by the way, who says that I'm not 100% debt free? 4574. You assume a lot in this text message. And if you're looking for a fight, you just found one, right? If you're not 100% debt free and have money in the bank, you really shouldn't be giving financial advice. What financial advice have I given? I've offered the opinion that staying on a penny-based system is dumb because it costs 4 cents for every penny. You've riled me up, 4574. If that was your goal, you've accomplished it, pal. I'll talk to you in just a moment after I take this break. I'll deal with you, 4574, in a second. We're live at 3rd and Lindsley on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Back in a moment. Defend Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm based right here in Middle Tennessee. They specialize in physical security consultation as well as active violence mitigation training. That's a fancy way of saying this. If you are the decision maker at a place that people gather, like, for example, a 3rd and Lindsley, or at a school or a corporation or a healthcare facility or other sort of business or a church, you need Defense Systems in your life. Cumulus Nashville utilized this training. It's where I met Brink Fiddler and his team to begin with. And it's why I'm so proud to be able to talk to them about it, because I've been through his training multiple times, and, friends, it works. It helps you become more aware of your surroundings. It helps you understand active shooter response, workplace violence prevention, security improvement, emergency and intruder action plans, rapid response medical training, all designed and customized to your facility. Here's the bottom line. Right? The possibility of you going through one of these incidents that we hear about and see about on television all the time are very, very low. Minuscule even. But they're not zero, which is why I hope it's not a plan. It is time to get trained with Defense Systems. Call 615-236-6484, 236-6484. Go online to defensesystems.com.
New development in the lawsuit filed by the family of Air Force veteran shot by a U.S. Capitol Police officer during the January 6, 2021 riot. This story and more at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. Thank you, Ken Weaver. 24 after the hour, almost 25 past. We're at 3rd and Lindsley, and things are starting to heat up a little bit. We got folks coming in. We got people getting rather excited. Now, obviously, the doors do not officially open until 6 o'clock, but the powers that be are coming in. Those sponsors of the big Roll Call 3.0 event are getting in here, and we would love to see you later on tonight. There are still a few tickets available. You can find them at fearlessrollcall.com. That's fearlessrollcall.com. If 4574 wanted to get my dander up at work, he said, if you're not 100% debt-free and have money in the bank, you really shouldn't be giving financial advice. Just my opinion. Doesn't have to be yours. I love you either way. To which I mean, look, I don't know Dave Ramsey, but the texter brought up Dave Ramsey, said debt is dumb, cash is king. I have credit cards that I will occasionally use and pay off at the end of or before the cycle is done, so I don't carry a balance on any of my credit cards. But I do have a few credit cards. More than anything, I'll use an American Express, which isn't a credit card. It's a charge card, but I don't want to get into the particulars on that. I'm certain that Brother Dave Ramsey doesn't like me saying that I have credit cards that have zero balances on them. But Armchair PD is agreeing. Said, I agree with the texter. If you're not Dave Ramsey certified, don't give financial advice. I'm still trying to figure out what financial advice I've given. I don't think I've given any financial advice. All I've said is that we are moving toward a more cashless society. There's a difference between being a cashless society and being a digital currency, which is a bad deal. We do not want to be digital currency. We want to be cash-based. But you can be cashless and cash-based at the same time. Does that make sense? Meaning that a debit card is a different thing than a credit card, right? Now, you're still paying for the service of using the debit card, but it's not the percentage rate that you're paying on the credit card, it's my understanding. But, of course, I don't want to be accused of giving financial advice because I am not Dave Ramsey. But if you know Dave, tell him to call us, and maybe he can help us out. Brian is next up on the phone line. Speaking of, hello, Brian. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Brian, I'm great.
But you are totally 100% correct. I had to teach my daughter how to give change and everything. I was a cashier back in the 80s. We had a Texas Instrument, and you had to do everything on paper or the brain. And you want to talk about blowing somebody's mind? Go to a drive-through, and your meal comes up to $5.38. Give them $20.38, and that blows their mind. I had a manager get involved, thought I was ripping them off. And I had explained to them how the change worked, and they still gave me change back.
No, they can't handle it. Brian, they can't handle it.
No, but you're 100% right. I literally had to go. I wanted 2 $5 bills that my daughter had, and I gave her a 10. She blew a gasket. Oh, that's wrong. You're ripping me off. And I'm like, well, in school, they're not teaching these kids anything. And I had to go to the bank, get all this change, and sat down with her for a whole month. Okay, I'm going to give you this and this. What are you going to give me back? And I had to go through and basically be her teacher and teach her the math skills that they should have taught. But that's my opinion.
Well, nowadays thank you, Brian, for the call. Nowadays, the youngsters feel like if the little stripey on the back or the little chip on the front of the card works, then they still have money. I thought that in college too. Look, I learned. I didn't need Dave Ramsey to teach me the lessons about credit cards. The credit card companies, as they are predators, they know where to go to engage in their predatory behavior. You know where they go? College campuses. And I set foot on the campus of West Georgia College. They call it West Georgia University now, but we weren't highfalutin back then. West Georgia College in Carrollton, Georgia. And I went to the student center one day. I was wet behind the ears, fresh out. And I walked by this kiosk, and it was the Visa people. And they said, oh, sign up for a Visa, and you can get your Visa within a week. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I can have a credit card? That seems like a very adult thing. And I signed up, had no credit whatsoever. And they gave me an $800 limit on my credit card. $800 limit. I was 18 years old. I had an $800 limit. I was running around town spending money hand over. I mean, it was the best month of my life. It really was. It was great, Ken.
I was getting ready to say the best day of my life.
It was so good. I had money to burn, Ken, until they shut it off after I didn't pay. Nobody made me aware that there's the $800 limit. I think I got up to $1,000 before.
Yeah.
Back in the day, back in 1991, 92, it would take a second for them to catch up to the fact that I was over the limit. And then it only took me like 4 years to pay that thing off. So that's nice,
You didn't think to check the mail for your statements.
Statements? They didn't tell me anything about statements when I was signing up for that.
Here you go.
No, kid, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
What's this 27% here? Nothing.
What does that mean? Don't worry about it. Just sign right here. Just sign. You're going to get that card. You're going to love it. It's going to have your name on it and everything. All right, we'll get more of your calls in here on a First Amendment Freestyle Friday in a moment. It's time for Kid Weaver in the newsroom on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. I'm looking at the radar here, and Nashville's drying out, Franklin drying out, Smyrna, Murfreesboro, Lebanon, Gallatin, Portland. Y'all will be drying out here pretty soon. Can't leave out Shelbyville either. I'm not sure if that's the end of our battles with thunderstorms tonight, but it certainly looks that way right now on radar. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Well, there's a new development in the wrongful death lawsuit filed by the family of Ashley Babbitt, who was shot to death by a U.S. Capitol police officer during the January 6, 2021 riot. Justice Department says they've agreed to a settlement, but no details were given. The family was seeking $30 million. Their lawyer says he expects they will sign a formal agreement in the next 3 weeks. More kids have died of the flu this season than in the past 15 years, according to data. Here's ABC's Sherry Preston.
This flu season has seen 610,000 hospitalizations and 26,000 deaths. 216 of them were children, the most since the 2009-2010 season when swine flu was spreading. Doctors say there are several reasons for this season's severity, but the biggest is the parents aren't vaccinating their children as much. Only 49% of children got the flu shot this season. 5 years ago, that number was 64%.
Here in Tennessee, there have been at least 5 flu-related child deaths this season. On Monday, the Department of Education set to start collecting debts on defaulted student loans. Here's Bankrate consumer lending analyst and certified student loan counselor Andrew Pentis.
Not only debt collectors sort of pursuing that late federal student loan payment, but also some potential serious consequences like wage garnishment, as well as the offsetting of federal payments, like your tax refund.
5 million borrowers will face mandatory collections for the first time in more than 5 years. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Clarksville got a crash. Police say it's 24 westbound after MLK Parkway. In Rutherford County, got a crash off on the right shoulder. That's going to be 24 westbound before Waldron Road. And then here in Nashville, Old Hickory Boulevard, just west of Nolensville Pike. At the Hermitage, a crash reported by police 40 eastbound at Central Pike. Then we've got 40 westbound at Bucksnort. That's going to be over there in Hickman County. A vehicle hit a bridge abutment there. So if you are trying to get to Nashville west of Nashville, or rather get to Memphis west of Nashville, looks like that could be tied up for a while. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply is your local full-service Toro dealer. It's already mowing season. You probably know that by now, right? Well, if you do not have a mower up to the snuff, up to sufficiency to mow your lawn, it's time to replace that old mower with a brand new Toro. And they're stocked up with Toro Time Cutters, Toro Titans, Toro Z Master mowers. And if you're looking, and they're looking to make a deal, right, at Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply through the month of May. Get $1,500 off select Toro zero-turn mowers. Toro, you can count on it. Go where the pros go. Go to Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply. If you're looking for quality parts, products, and the best advice in the state of Tennessee, visit your one-stop Toro shop. That's Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply. Friends, you go to some of these big box stores, these folks don't know a mower from a hole in the ground, right? At Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply, you're talking to professionals that understand what you're trying to accomplish, and they can point you in the right direction for all of your landscaping needs, for all of your turf needs, for all of your lawn care needs. Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply. Go where the pros go. DickensSupply.com. 7 separate locations: Nashville, Bellevue, Murfreesboro, Brentwood, Moore, Hendersonville, Mount Juliet, and Franklin. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Dickens at DickensSupply.com. I was just talking to a Duggar. Duggar band's here tonight. They'll be playing a little bit later on. They're playing tomorrow night as well. We're at 3rd and Lindsley. Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Radio Show continues. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I see you over there, Phil. Scotty, I see you too. And I want to talk to both of you about Cashless Society. But the time indicates to me at 38 minutes after 5 o'clock, regardless of whether we're at 3rd and Lindsley or not, it is Friday. It's just after 5:30. A lot of folks are off work. And what you need in your life, you need a few nincompoops.
Nincompoops in the news.
No, not me, and not Weber, and not Weaver, although we probably qualify from time to time as nincompoops. We're talking about the nincompoops in the news. We scour the state of Tennessee, all across these United States of America, and the globe, and we find the nincompoops where they live and where they breathe and where they breed. And we bring them to you. And Florida. America's dongle, Florida. So, gentlemen, I ask you, because I'm at a loss here from my location, who wants to go first? I'll go first if you want me to, but I think Ken Weaver should make the decision because I think Ken Weaver deserved better with his story yesterday, and I bested him with the poop on the car story.
Thanks for reminding me.
That was great. That was good. It was good.
I want brother Chris to go first.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Weber.
Will do. Dateline, Melbourne, Florida. According to the police affidavit, police were notified that a U.S. Postal Service mail truck was driving in the opposite travel lane on South Harbor City Boulevard, and the driver was throwing plastic cups out of the vehicle. When officers arrived, they saw the truck driving driving west on East University Boulevard before making a U-turn to head east. Police said the truck swerved in and out of its lane and traveled in the opposite lane of travel. When officers pulled over the mail truck, they said that 33-year-old Caitlin Dye was behind the wheel, and she appeared confused and disoriented. Officers conducted field sobriety exercises and said her results were indicative of someone under the influence. Police questioned Dye, who said she was delivering to a home on Riverview Drive when she was invited inside for a party. Dye told police that she drank 2 shots of vodka before she was pulled over. Woo. Officers then asked why she was swerving in and out of traffic, and she said it was because she had fallen asleep while driving. They also asked her about the cups she was throwing out of the vehicle, and she said it was just water that she used to swish in her mouth to not smell like alcohol.
That's right.
Police say they also spoke with witnesses who called in the incident, and they reported seeing the truck where she almost struck multiple vehicles as she swerved on the roadway.
Yes.
She was arrested and booked into the Brevard County Jail.
You know what?
No word on all the packages, though.
So
maybe
she was just swishing with water.
Yeah, just wanted to get that, that taste out of her mouth.
You know what we used to? I don't know if you guys had these theories or methods or urban legends.
Yeah.
We were always told when we were youngsters and doing things we ought not to do to put pennies in your mouth.
Oh, I heard that before. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that'll mess up the breathalyzer.
Yeah, I'm sure that works.
Yeah, I'm sure that works. I'm sure that works. You can disabuse people of that notion as you're on the way to the drunk tank in the back seat of a police car. Right?
I heard Banaka, the spray, the breath spray, because it was alcohol-based. You spray some of that in there, and, it's just my breath spray. It's not.
Oh, I just got this in my pocket. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. You're registering my breath spray.
It's not tequila. It's cinnamon Banaka.
Cinnamon. You reminded me, Weber. Have you seen that? There's a video running around some platform where there's 2 women in a candle store, and one woman holds up the candle, and she goes, "Oh, smell this, smell this. It smells like Fireball."
Yeah.
And the other lady says, "Yeah, non-alcoholics call that cinnamon."
Man, we had a myth back in high school in Little Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, where I grew up. The police department got this new car that was basically just designed to focus on impaired driving. But the big mystery was all of us underage delinquents who would go out to the bait shop outside of town to buy our beer because they wouldn't ID you. Mm-hmm. Somebody got it in their head that there was special machinery in this car that could detect cold in other cars.
Cold?
Yeah. So we all went out and started getting these styrofoam, all those styrofoam coolers to put our beer in because we were told, but it can't see through styrofoam.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say that you started buying hot beer. We'll show them.
Well, the Hams was usually hot, but you could get a case of it for $4.
Oh, so you had a bait shop too, Ken?
Oh, yes.
Outside of Thompson, Georgia, Thomson, no P in Thompson. There was a bait shop near Clarks Hill Lake that you could go, and they had a stool in the back of the store, and they had a stack of paper bags on the stool. And the deal, if you knew the deal, you did the deal, and you got the beer. And I'm not suggesting anybody should do this.
Right.
But what you did is you put the beer in the sack, and then you took the sack up to the counter, and the person at the register would say, "Well, how much was that?"
Yeah.
And you would tell them, and they never saw it, and somehow they thought that absolved them of any responsibility that a 16-year-old was buying a 6-pack of beer.
Little wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah, they didn't have anything like that at the bait shop. It was just how much you need.
Well, I think I've told you the story of Smiley before. Smiley was this elderly fellow that lived in Thompson, who lived across the street from the Shell station. And you learned that if you needed some alcohol and you were underage, you just ask Smiley to get it for you, and Smiley would do it. He'd get off his front porch and he'd go across the street. But here's the deal: you learn quick. And I gave Smiley a $20 bill. And this was like in 1990, right? Yeah. And Smiley goes across the street. I wanted a 6-pack of Michelob.
Yeah.
And he comes back. Well, that's all you got. No, I take it back. I didn't want a 6-pack of Michelob. I'm telling the story wrong. All you ever got from Smiley was Michelob, no matter what you asked for. and he would come back, and I'd say, Smiley. I said, Smiley, where's my change? And Smiley said, change? There ain't no change. I had to kick in a quarter. So there was a delicate balance, because if you started getting smart and giving Smiley exact change, Smiley would come back and just give you your money back.
Right.
Smiley needed a tip.
Yep.
But you had to learn that delicate balance. Anyway,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Don't do any of that, kids.
No,
That's
sir.
bad business.
Don't.
You turn out like
Stay
that.
out of
Don't
them
do
bait
it.
shops.
Yeah. And stay out of the Woolsworth.
Yeah.
I'll go next.
All right.
Days after claiming a $167.3 million Powerball jackpot. That's $167.3 million in Powerball jackpot money. A Kentucky man is behind bars, charged with kicking a cop in the face.
Wow.
During a melee at an oceanfront hotel in Florida. According to court records, James Farthing, a 50-year-old ex-con, was arrested Tuesday evening on felony and misdemeanor charges in connection with a fracas at the Trade Winds Resort in St. Pete Beach. Farthing, it was a fracas. Farthing was at the resort with Jacqueline Fightmaster.
Wow.
I'm not making that up.
Okay.
His 42-year-old girlfriend. As seen in the photo on the story that I'm reading from, Fightmaster and Farthing, which sounds like a law firm, by the way. We support you at Fightmaster and Farthing. Appeared Tuesday in a Kentucky lottery press conference announcing their Powerball win. So this is just Tuesday. Farthing is splitting the money with his 77-year-old mother. Farthing won the April 26th Powerball drawing, purchased the winning lottery ticket at Clark's Pump and Shop. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the bait store in Georgetown.
Sounds like it.
Mm-hmm. On Tuesday evening, one day after posing with an oversized jackpot winner check, Farthing punched a male victim in the face during an argument at Trade Winds. Subsequent to that alleged battery, a sheriff's deputy sought to break up the fight in progress with Farthing and another patron. While interceding in the brawl, Deputy Nicholas Arostio, I believe is how you pronounce that, reported being kicked in the face by Farthing. After reviewing body cam footage, the officer stated that he observed the defendant winding up his right leg and kicking.
Winding it up
And kicking the officer in the face in an attempt to injure and incapacitate. In the arrest affidavit, the officer said the kick caused him, quote, pain in my face, end quote.
Imagine.
And also resulted in swelling and redness. Word is that Farthing, simultaneously Fightmaster was, quote, actively engaging in argumentative behavior involving other guests and her boyfriend and was trying to, true to her name, fight the other patrons at the bar. She was arrested too. Word is they have money for bail.
Yeah.
Word is.
I think they do.
I mean, sometimes I question the Lord as to how he gives these lotteries out. I just sometimes question.
Well, don't feel too bad. He won't have it for very long, I'm sure.
Right.
No, I mean, $167 million. He's splitting it with Mama. So if you take away taxes, he's probably going to end up with $40 million, y'all think?
Yeah.
Split.
Yeah.
$40 million for him, $40 million for Mama.
Yep.
How long before he blows through that, man? 5 years?
Yeah.
If that.
If that.
And then he'll take the rest of Mama's, whatever Mama's got left.
Yeah, sadly, that's probably true. Mr. Weaver.
All right, this is out of Defuniak Springs, Florida. Happened about 10 days ago. It was posted on the town's Office of the City Marshal's Facebook page. An officer observed a person operating an excavator in an attempt to take an ATM located right next to the police department. When the officer attempted to contact the subject, he fled the scene.
Yeah.
Video footage became available, and detectives were able to identify the suspect who agreed to come in for an interview. So apparently he got away, and they had to call him. He got away in an excavator. Those things only go 20 miles an hour. Anyway, here's the good part. When questioned, the 43-year-old admitted to stealing the excavator and then attempting to steal the ATM. And according to the marshal, his reasoning, I would rather rob a bank than work for my brother.
And brother must be a piece of work.
He must be, man.
Is his brother named Brian? Because mine is. And I don't blame him if it's the same one.
Oh, so he was arrested and charged with grand theft of construction equipment, criminal mischief over $1,000, and burglary of a structure with property damage. Bond was set at $7,500.
You know, if we've said it once, we've said it 100 times. Thank goodness criminals are so stupid.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
My goodness gracious. Well, there you go. That's how we play Nincompoops in the News. You can participate by telling us who you think the winner is. Ken Weaver, Chris Webber, Matt Murphy. Dial us up, 615-737-9986 on the Super Text line, and let us know who the big winner is. That's right, Brian. Her name was Fight Master. And no, he was not dating a Mortal Kombat character. 615-737-9986. We'll also get to a few of your other telephone calls. Scotty and Phil, y'all hang in there. It's the Matt Murphy Show live from 3rd and Lindsley. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Friends, Genesis Diamonds is your one-stop destination for Mother's Day. This year, get her something timeless, meaningful, special, one-of-a-kind. It's at Genesis Diamonds. They have layered necklaces, stackable rings, eternity bands, colored gemstone pieces, heirloom quality jewelry, diamond bracelets, and earrings, all available for Mama, and all in a budget that will, or a price point, I should say, that will fit your budget. There are pieces of jewelry that she can wear anywhere, from Target to the theater. She can enjoy them for years to come. Dinner is nice, okay? Flowers are expected, but that special gift from Genesis Diamonds is going to be the home run that she talks about with all of the family for years to come. So whether it's her first Mother's Day or her 60th, Mom deserves a gift that is anything but ordinary. Go see my friends at Genesis Diamonds, located in Green Hills and Cool Springs, 2 separate locations. Genesis Diamonds. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Genesis Diamonds.
Ashley Babbitt, wrongful death lawsuit settlement. This story and more coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Believe it or not, we're having a great time at 3rd and Lindsley getting ready for the big event. The Roll Call 3.0 kicks off tonight. FearlessRollCall.com. Still a couple of tickets available, a few tickets available at Roll Call 3.4 Roll Call 3.0, either tonight's event, which is a very VIP it is a VIP event at 3rd and Lindsley, sort of a more of an intimate setting as opposed to Rocket Town, which is a slightly bigger facility. But tonight's event, you can still get tickets if you go to fearlessrollcall.com, put in the offer code 997, and we'll get you in the door. Doors are opening in just a few minutes, and you're invited to come out. Show starts at 7. Duggar Band's going to be on stage. There are other country music artists on stage, and it all culminates with Jason Whitlock and Tucker Carlson later on tonight. Tucker will be in the house offering his thoughts on what it is to be a faith-driven man in 2025. In the few minutes we have left in this hour, let's try Scotty, who is on the road, wants to talk about making change. Hey, Scotty, how are you?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you doing?
Man, I'm better than I deserve, Scotty.
Hey, by the way, I know exactly where Thompson, Georgia, one of my best friends lives in Washington, so you know where that is.
Oh, why? That's where the rich folks live, Washington.
Yeah, I don't know about that. The rest of the line. So, anyways, I'm from Texas, all right? So I went to Whataburger one time. The only thing I had is a $100 bill. I was buying dinner for all my guys that work for me. I'm in construction business, right? Gave the girl a $100 bill. The bill was like $38. I got back $142.
Oh, wow.
I got argued with, I got back to the job site. I'm counting my money. That's all I had. So I said, well, something's wrong here. So I'm going to go back. Here's this girl that works for Whataburger that, makes $6 an hour, and she's going to have to pay this back. So I went back to Whataburger, and they argued with me about giving them money back. And I said, what the heck? I said, all I had was a $100 bill. I gave them that, and it was like $38, I think it was. And I got like $142 back. And I went to the manager and said, hey, this is what happened and everything. Oh, no. We can't do anything for you, And that's how ridiculous it is.
Did they think that you were, did they misunderstand you?
They took
I'm trying to give you money.
To the manager, and they said, well, look, all I had was a $100 bill, and I gave it, and now I got $142, and I'm trying to give you the money back that the girl's going to have to pay when their cash register clears out tonight.
I've done it before. It's happened to me before too, Scotty, and thank you for the call. That's a great story. And if you're ever Washington way, some of the finest plantation-style homes you'll ever see are in Washington, Georgia. But it's happened to me before when I got too much change, and I realized that when I got out of the store, you go back, the shock that people go through when you're trying to give them money back to their store is pretty amazing. The woman that I'm thinking of, she was like, why are you giving us this money back? I was like, because you gave me too much money. I don't want to steal from you. Your register will come up bad. All right, it's 6 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll get to the news here in just a moment. Don't forget, in the final hour of the show, Donald Trump's in Tuscaloosa. We're going to talk about Doge. We're going to tell you an update on the Ernest Tubb Record Shop. And look, I was not in town very long before I realized that the Ernest Tubb Record Shop, we're about to lose it. And we made that a subject of our show on a couple of different occasions. Well, the Ernest Tubb Record Shop is coming back to Lower Broadway. We'll tell you in what form and what fashion, plus your telephone calls on the way. Live from 3rd and Lindsley. It's the Matt Murphy Show. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
6 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Good part of Middle Tennessee getting a break from the rain now. A lot of us are drying out with this second band of strong storms now moving well east of Nashville. Murfreesboro, Lebanon, Gallatin, all in the clear now. Shelbyville, it'll be by you here pretty soon. And there is nothing behind it. So it looks like we're going to dry out for a while. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Justice Department and the family of Ashley Babbitt have reached a settlement agreement over her death during the January 6th U.S. Capitol riot. We haven't seen the details, but Babbitt's family members had sued the government in January 2024 seeking $30 million for what they say was her wrongful shooting death by Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd. Byrd had fired one shot striking Babbitt, a 35-year-old Air Force veteran and supporter of former President Trump. She was shot in the shoulder. She later died from her injury. The family's lawyer says he expects them to sign a formal agreement in the next 3 weeks. On Monday, the Department of Education set to start collecting debts on defaulted student loans. Here's Bankrate consumer lending analyst and certified student loan counselor Andrew Pentis.
The Department of Education has promised that over the past 2 weeks, it's been reaching out to these borrowers to let them know of the situation, the gravity of these consequences. If for some reason you think you might be late or even in default on your loans and you haven't heard from your federal loan servicer, the best thing you can do is to reach out.
More travel headaches. America's top transportation official speaking this afternoon at a terminal radar approach control facility in Philadelphia that oversees air traffic for Newark Airport among hundreds of flight delays at that airport today, blamed on staffing issues and construction. Department of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announcing that next week he's going to propose a brand new air traffic control system.
It's going to be a national priority. It's going to be a national jobs program. It's not going to take place over the course of a couple months or even a couple years. It's probably going to be a 3, maybe 4-year project to redo every facility.
And if you're flying in the weeks ahead, pack your patience. That advice from travel experts. Nick Ewan, senior editorial director for the Points Guy travel website, telling ABC News air travelers could face additional screening or may not be allowed to fly without a real ID.
I would strongly suggest if you don't have a real ID compliant form of identification to bring other documents to verify your identity, a copy of your birth certificate, a utility bill, anything that shows your address. Be prepared because you may be questioned to essentially ensure that when they let you through security, that you are who your non-real ID compliant ID says you are.
Starting on May 7th, travelers flying out of U.S. airports will need to show TSA agents their real ID or another form of compliant identification, such as a passport, to board even domestic flights. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Clarksville, police reporting a crash 24 westbound after MLK Parkway. Old Hickory Boulevard, just west of Nolensville Pike here in Nashville. And then in Laverne, accident on the right shoulder. That's going to be 24 westbound before Waldron Road. In Hermitage, got one 40 westbound at Old Hickory Boulevard East. And in Murfreesboro, a crash reported 840 eastbound at Jefferson Pike. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That's the radio station. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. We're coming to you from 3rd and Lindsley. It is an iconic location in Nashville. You know where it is. Well, it's at 3rd and Lindsley. That's the name of the bar and grill, and that's the location of the bar and grill. And we're here tonight, obviously, for Roll Call 3.0. It's about to get cranked up. Doors are just opening. Jason Whitlock and all of the team, Duggar Band's here. I just said hello to Seth and Jordan. We're talking to them a moment ago. Tucker Carlson set to enter the arena coming up in just a little bit, and it should be a lot of fun later on tonight. Hope you've got your tickets, and if you don't have your tickets, go to fearlessrollcall.com, and maybe a ticket or two still available for you. So we'll talk more about that in just a moment. 8 minutes after 6 o'clock. I've got much to do and not a lot of time to do it in. Don't forget, we will leave from a live perspective. I'll be here till well past 7 o'clock tonight. So if you're coming out to say hello, please stop by and say hello. But at 6:35, right after Ken Weaver's final newscast of the day and of the week, we have we're going to re-rack our conversation with Freddie O'Connell. It got a little testy, got a little contentious, but it is well worth a listen in case you missed it. We're doing that for a couple of reasons. I'll just pull back the curtain. One is that it was a very interesting interview to look inside of the mind of the liberal mindset of the liberal mayor of Nashville as he prepares to raise your property taxes by at least 27%. That's one thing. Number two, we've got to get out of the way and allow some of the proceedings to get on at 3rd and Lindsley. And in order to do that, we want to try to start breaking things down so they can get started promptly at 7 o'clock. And with that in mind, we're going to bug out from a live perspective. But we'll still be here out and about as folks are coming in right now in anticipation of Jason Whitlock, Tucker Carlson, and Roll Call 3.0. I'll get into the Ernest Tubb story here in just a moment, talk about Donald Trump and NPR. But I believe Phil has been holding on the line. And, Phil, the floor is yours, sir, out of Murfreesboro. I appreciate your call. I appreciate your patience. How are you, Phil?
I'm doing good. Are you?
I'm great, Phil. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, talking about everybody going cashless, you know, the Sounds are cashless, the Braves are cashless. And I don't like it. I like paying with cash, but I can understand if you've got 100 people having their hands in the kitty, that gives them less chance of other people stealing from them.
Well, that's true, 100% true, but it's also, sadly, it has become easier to find people that engage in the transaction, that they know how to do the cards. They don't know how to give you change anymore. It's much harder to teach that.
They don't know how to count change back.
That's right. That's exactly right, Phil.
I mean, I hate it, but, I mean, that's the way our world's going to, so.
No, it's the way of the world, Phil. I mean, sad to say, but I believe that it will just continue as we move forward, and eventually you'll see a lot of venues that just don't – I mean, well, there's already a lot of venues that just don't take it anymore.
I think it will, too, and then that way the government can keep up with what you're spending.
Well, I mean, that's a good point, too. I mean, they're keeping up with those banks. That's no doubt about that.
All right, well, you have a good night,
man. Thank you, brother. I appreciate the call tonight. 615-737-9986. I do think that part of the way, some of these smaller locations that don't take cash money, they are just relying on the idea that they're not going to be sued, that they're not going to be called out on it. The bigger venues I was right. I did a little, small amount of research during the break. And the bigger venues, they get away with it. They have kiosks set up where if you absolutely don't have a debit card or a credit card that you can use at Nissan Stadium or at Bridgestone Arena, they have places where you can go and you essentially trade your cash for a card, a debit card, call it what you will, debit card, gift card, whatever. And you put a certain amount of money on there, and then you can spend that money that way. But no, I think it's a combination of things. I think they consider it to be a quicker transaction in order to deal with a card and not cash. It's easier to get tips. Everybody and their brother wants a tip from you nowadays. Anytime you swipe your dang debit card, they hit you up for tip money, and even if they've really not done anything, a lot of these locations, I don't even know anymore. I'm to a fault a generous tipper. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying it because it's true. I've worked in the service industry. I managed a Waffle House. I've been in the trenches. I've dealt with customer service. I've dealt with horrible, 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 horrible people that are just awful and then leave you next to no money with tip. So I don't want to be that guy, and I want to make up for the other guys, honestly. And in that respect, I over-tip. But even I'm like, well, I don't understand why you're asking me for a tip here. We were at a point-of-sale transaction, and all you did was hand me something. I don't believe that what you're doing is tip-worthy. But here you are offering me an opportunity to give you 15, 20, or – a lot of times it's like 10, 15, or 20%, or it's 15, 20, and 22%. It's like, where's my option? And if you will look for the option that says I'm not giving you a tip, that's a very, very teeny, no-tip option. And then you get looked at funny and you get judged. It's particularly annoying. 4268 says, it's astounding that the cash register tells them how much change to give the customer and even spits out the exact coinage, and yet they still can't get it right, it seems, oftentimes. Josh says, Matt Murphy, I went to a Widespread Panic concert Saturday night at Ascend. Tickets were $500 plus day of. I paid a kid working a side gate $300 cash and got me and my buddy in for his birthday. Cash is king. Always will be. That's a good use of your money there, Josh. And I'm certain that that's about all you remember at the Widespread Panic concert, because I've never been to one, but it's my understanding if you don't recognize the songs, the first one or two or three songs, you don't have a shot at recognizing the songs coming later because you've got a contact high. That's at least my understanding of the situation. Let me give you this story real quick. Nashville's legendary Ernest Tubb record shop is set to reopen after renovation. I'm so pleased to hear this, because the fear was after it closed its doors in 2022, and we talked to the folks involved with this. David McCormick was one of them, I believe, that was involved in it. The historic Ernest Tubb record shop on Nashville's Lower Broad is now set to reopen this fall, bringing back a 7-decade legacy of record sales and nighttime live music. Ernest Tubb's grandson, Dale Tubb, partnered with Jamie and Brian Kenny for the renovation and expansion. The Kenny brothers' hospitality firm Tusk Brothers, behind the Nashville bars Never Never and Reunion, have not specified an opening date or the estimated cost of the renovation, but the plans are pretty grand. They're saying, and this is coming from an article in the Tennessean, in our opinion, Ernest Tubb Record Shop belongs to Nashville, belongs to the Tubb family, belongs to a nation of country music fans and visitors who came through the space for more than 75 years. We felt this was our chance to help keep it that way. The fear, and I remember this because we talked about it at the time, the fear was that this would just become another bar. And no offense to all of the bars on Broadway, but there are enough of them. We have all the bars that you can possibly imagine on Broadway and then some. There's only one Ernest Tubb Record Shop. So this fall, the record shop will reopen as a reimagined version of the iconic store that Country Music Hall of Famer Ernest Tubb opened on Broadway in 1951. He originally launched the shop in 1947 on Commerce Street, moved to Broadway 4 years later. The first floor, 2 bars and 2 stages, live bands will face one another surrounded by Tubb memorabilia and traditional Texas decor. The second story will feature the original record shop concept with vinyls and CDs for sale, plus space for the Midnight Jamboree, or at least a reinterpretation of the Midnight Jamboree. That's good news, too. In the store's glory days from 51 to 95, it hosted the Midnight Jamboree radio show, which oftentimes happened following the Grand Ole Opry. Even as recent as 2016, artists like Casey Musgraves revived the tradition of live performance. It was, I think it was Loretta Lynn who was performing at Ernest Tubb Record Shop. And when I first came to Nashville, the first time I'd ever been in Nashville was in 2014. Went to the Grand Ole Opry, which was at the Ryman Auditorium because it was during the holiday season, and the Grand Ole Opry house was doing some sort of Christmas shows, and so they had moved the Grand Ole Opry to the Ryman. And I went to the Grand Ole Opry, and then we went over to Ernest Tubb Record Shop. I wanted to go to Lower Broadway. Obviously, I wanted to go to Tootsie's. I wanted to go to the Ryman Auditorium. I wanted to go to Ernest Tubb Record Shop. Those are the three places that I 100% wanted to go. But I remember when I went there, they had the little Coca-Cola box, and they claimed it was the original. I don't know if that's true or not, but they had it was a Coca-Cola crate that Loretta Lynn had to stand on the first time that she performed at the Midnight Jamboree in the Ernest Tubb Record Shop. And she had to stand on that crate because nobody could see. The folks in the back couldn't see her performing because she was so short. And so she stood on that little box. And moving up to the third floor, there's going to be a dedicated venue for specialty shows with new artist spotlights and label events. So they're modernizing the record shop. It closed in 2022 because David McCormick, they were I think they were planning on selling it at some point, and eventually real estate folks purchased the property for multi-million, like $1 gajillion or whatever it was. More than triple the price it sold for in 2020. But after backlash that, frankly, included, I was new to town, but I'm like, come on, guys, we can't lose an iconic location like the Ernest Tubb Record Shop. After a wide backlash that included a lot more prominent people than yours truly, it was eventually reclaimed, and it was decided that while it could be reimagined and re-envisioned as a place where people could come and have some beers or whatever, that it should embrace what the Ernest Tubb Record Shop always was. And that was just an iconic venue on Lower Broadway, and it was always there, even when there was nothing else there. I wasn't here back then. Y'all probably were, but I know my history well enough to know that in the 1980s and 1990s, there wasn't a hell of a lot down on Lower Broadway, but the Ernest Tubb Record Shop was down there. Why are you shaking your head?
The Ernest Tubb Record Shop was on DeMumbrian, right where the Tin Roof is, up until the time they redeveloped that, and then it moved to Broadway.
Kirby, you're wrong. Unless the Tennessean is wrong. From 1951 to 1995, the Ernest Tubb Record Shop moved from Commerce Street in 1947 to Broadway in 1951, where it remained until it closed down in 2022. Now, there was
a shop on the Mumrian.
I think there was a shop on the I don't know. I don't know about all that.
Anyway.
I wouldn't. I don't.
We're splitting hairs.
It shouldn't
be going away.
I shouldn't tell Kirby that he's wrong because what do I know? I wasn't here till 2021. Kirby could be exactly right. Someone will tell us who's right and who's wrong. Maybe we're both right. I do know that wasn't the Country Music Hall of Fame up there on DeMumbrian somewhere?
That's where it was right there, but the triangle comes out from our building, and you got the roundabout with the statues. It was in the point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, tiny little building.
And my grandparents went to that Country Music Hall of Fame in 1968.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't know that until I found a program at their house. They never mentioned going there. And in the program, and I have no idea if this is real or not, but I'm just going to choose to believe it is. In the program, Porter Wagner's signature is under his picture as a Country Music Hall of Fame member, and right underneath Porter Wagner's signature is the signature of Dolly Parton.
I wouldn't doubt that, yeah.
She
got her start with Porter Wagner.
She got her
Porter
start
Wagner
with Porter.
show and doing boxes of Brie.
It would make a lot of sense. In 1974, my father went to the Midnight Jamboree where the incomparable Miss Dolly Parton was singing. Oh, I bet that was quite a performance. All right, 20 after the hour, we're getting ready for a pretty good performance as well as the venue is starting to fill to the brim with folks who are excited to see Duggar Band, excited to see the Hauser Excited to see Tucker Carlson and Jason Whitlock, and we'll fill you in on all of that and wrap things up. We're not wrapping up yet. Don't worry. I've got a couple of things to tell you about, and then we'll get to our interview with Freddie O'Connell coming up in just a couple of minutes. A Real ID update to come, a Doge update to come, and Trump has signed an order to cut federal funding from NPR and PBS, which is unnecessary nowadays. We'll talk about that next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Friends, if you're having trouble sleeping, particularly you guys out there, if you snore and your partner has noticed that you snore, the possibility exists that you have sleep apnea. And if you do have sleep apnea, then I have a solution for you. Now, I would never have considered a CPAP a solution for me. I know that I could not wear a CPAP. But here's the deal. I did not realize I had sleep apnea until I talked to Dr. Brian McLaughlin, Dr. Stephen Poss, and the group at the Sleep Apnea TMJ Solution Center. And upon talking to these guys and upon taking a sleep test, I realized that I did, in fact, have sleep apnea. And with that in mind, I got myself an oral appliance that was covered by my insurance. And for most of you with insurance in the state of Tennessee, you are fully covered through the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. Approved. They are an approved community care provider to the VA as well, so they're helping veterans sleep and live better. But your insurance helps you out with this, and it is an oral device. You sleep better. It keeps the airway open, and you breathe better at night. You don't stop breathing at night, and that's going to keep you healthier, and it will stop your snoring. How about that? Go to TennesseeSleep.com. That's TennesseeSleep.com for more information about Dr. Brian McLaughlin, Dr. Stephen Poss, and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. It can be hard to find someone that you trust when it comes to large home repairs like your AC unit, but I'm telling you right now, you can trust Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. And right now, it's a perfect time for you to go ahead and get the summer maintenance done on your unit. You do this right now, right? I hope that you've done it in the past month or so. But if you've not already, Efficient Heating and Cooling has a kind of an incentive for you. It's called their maintenance guarantee. It means if they have to come back out for any reason whatsoever to repair during this summer, during the same summer that you had the unit maintenance, don't worry, they're going to waive that service fee. Completely waived. It is your Efficient Heating and Cooling maintenance guarantee, and it comes to you from Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Plus, they're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Here's the bottom line, folks. If your unit does go out, and there will come a time where it will, who do you trust to know what unit to replace it with? They're going to examine your family, and for the right one for you and your family, they're going to find the right price point as well. They're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Call Efficient today at 615-784-4424. That's 784-4424, or go online at efficienthvac.net. Thank you, Mr. Ken Weaver, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A few minutes before we'll get to that newscast. Don't forget, come on out and say hello to us if you stop by 3rd and Lindsley for tonight's big event. Hope you have tickets. If you don't, maybe some still available. I don't know. I mean, I'm just sitting here talking on the radio, but I was told about an hour and a half ago that there were several seats, a few seats left for the big event. Jason Whitlock has taken the stage in advance of the official start of the show. Starting at about 7 o'clock tonight. And so we're excited about seeing Jason. We're excited about seeing Duggar Band and some of the other acts that are coming up. Jason Hauser, I believe. And there's a few others that don't come to mind right now. But the big event is the conversation between Jason and Tucker Carlson. I'm toning down my voice because I don't want to interrupt anybody trying to listen to Jason Whitlock as he says introductions to everyone. I want to thank Dan Steiner, our guest at Preborn. Thank Jay St. Clair as well, who stopped by with us via Zoom. Real quick, Donald Trump is now saying that he is going after the funding, the federal funding from NPR and PBS. And obviously this has liberals all beside themselves for one reason or another, and I'm not really sure why, because liberals have so many different outlets by which their point of view gets expressed. I don't know why they think they have to rely on government-funded and government financial support to PBS and to NPR. National Public Radio, the radio side, and PBS, the public broadcasting system, has taken millions of dollars of federal tax money for years and years. NPR says that it will aggressively challenge the executive order. PBS said that it was exploring its options as well. Congress allocated $535 million for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting in fiscal year 2025. Most of that funding for the PBS and NPR comes from other sources. I'm fascinated. I mean, how much money does it take to run these organizations? I mean, I understand that they do some pretty good programs. Look, I'm not even knocking the programming that's on PBS or NPR. The news is obviously leftist, and it should not involve taxpayer money for that reason alone. But I don't understand why you can't take that programming to other platforms. It is not 1975 anymore. It's not even 1995 anymore. It is 2025. Do you understand how democratized the world is when it comes to information, news, opinion, or outlets for creativity? It is so democratized, as a matter of fact, that I would suggest to you that there's no worthwhile reason for us to fund National Public Radio or public broadcasting any longer. Yet, fund it we do. And Donald Trump is attempting to stop that. And, you'll see a lot of liberals howl about it, but it will ultimately come to nothing. 5911 says, Matt, you can give me financial advice anytime. Well, thank you, 5911. That sets me off on a good note. All right, when we come back from the news, you're going to hear from Mayor Freddie O'Connell. It's an interview that we engaged in yesterday right at the beginning of the show. We're going to re-rack that for you on this Friday edition of the Matt Murphy Show as we get ready for the big Fearless Roll Call 3.0, which is getting underway with Duggar Band taking the stage. So we'll say goodbye to you and have a wonderful weekend. You'll listen to Freddie O'Connell and our conversation coming up next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome in. It's the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We welcome back to the Matt Murphy Show, Mayor Freddie O'Connell. I gave you credit when you were on with us last, I think it was in January, because while, we might come at this differently, and I don't have your job and you don't have mine, and we don't have, we don't have shared perspective on this. However, you did not shy away from the idea that in a property tax reappraisal year, that you have to, and considering the truth in taxation and the equalization, of impact, that you have to look at the possibility of adjusting rates accordingly. And you addressed that in your remarks today. Talk about what impact that's going to have on Davidson County and Nashvillians.
Yeah, and I shared it with you and your listeners last time I was on. This is a normal part of how we do business, and I think you just talked a little bit about why this is so complicated. The state requires us to equalize our property tax rate to be revenue neutral in an appraisal year. We've had a lot of property valuation increases. I think a lot of Nashvillians have just gotten their appraisal letters in the mail from the assessor's office. We just did at our house last week. And, like many Nashvillians, our property values have gone up. Now, what's so hard about this moment, though, is we did release a budget today that would increase the tax levy from that equalized rate. But I can also tell you, because our neighborhood is one that saw its property values really spike in that period from 2017 to 2021, it's very likely that many of my neighbors will actually pay less in overall taxes. But there are other neighborhoods across Nashville who saw much of that significant growth in valuation jump this cycle, and so there will be Nashvillians who do pay more in property taxes. I think what I'm sensitive to is it's not like there's some across the board number that you can just tell everybody, hey, this is exactly how much your property taxes are going up or down, because that just doesn't really exist. It's all about every individual property and the interplay between property value and the tax levy.
So, absent those few individuals that you bring up who you say might have a decrease in overall amounts that they're paying, I don't think I did not walk away from your speech with any doubt that property taxes were going up. I mean, you made it clear that the cost of city services were going up, and as a consequence, you had to make adjustments to bring in more revenue through property taxes. That was my takeaway. Was I reading that wrong?
No, you got it right. But I will say right now today, sitting at my desk, I don't know the total number of Nashvillians for whom the total amount of tax they pay will go down versus up. I can tell you that the overall tax levy post-equalization rate that we are going to recommend is almost equivalent to the 5 years of inflation impact in the cost of governing in Nashville. And so, again, we're tracking pretty closely with costs, and that's part of the overall responsibility outlook we had here.
Wait, when you say, and I'm just trying to understand you. When you say when you're tracking with cost, that means you're going to increase property taxes consistent with the amount of cost to engage in what you consider to be essential government function.
That is exactly right.
You spoke directly, Mayor, to those who were against it. And I was among that group. I went out and I talked to a lot of those folks, and a lot of those folks are listening to us right now that are against the concept of raising property taxes. And as you say, when you discuss this, when you have reassessment, that does not automatically mean a rate increase. The state government, and I go over it all. I don't want to waste our time going over it again. It is a complex, and you noted that. It's a complex measure. But people generally don't want to pay more out of their pocket. They want the government, Nashville and Davidson County, to live within its means. And you spoke directly to those folks by saying these are the same people celebrating the chaos of federal cuts, which, make no mistake, are not about efficiency. And I want to address that topic because when you drew up this budget, you balanced to that budget, right?
That's 100% true, but within our operating budget, there is an expectation among key Metro departments, namely the Metro Action Commission, the Metro Public Health Department, where some of those recurring programs like Head Start, like the Low-Income Heating and Energy Assistance Program, like what we used to have from an epidemiological lab capacity standpoint at Metro Public Health, there are full Metro positions. Like, these people are Metro employees whose salaries, whose jobs come directly from recurring federal revenue.
Right. I understand. But the question is, you are required and you feel obligated to balance the budget for the city of Nashville.
Oh, we are. It's not just a personal feeling, although I do think balanced budget as a baseline for how we govern is a great thing. Like,
right. So why don't you understand
of our balanced budget approach?
Why don't you understand the concept federally of doing the same thing? Because you don't seem to understand that.
No, of course I do.
Hold on a second. We're $37 trillion in debt, and you poo-pooed that today during your speech like it was nothing. The United States of America is $37 trillion in debt, Freddie.
Matt, if you really want to get into a discussion of federal spending, we can do that.
No, you brought it up during your speech. You said
I did, because we rely on those. We rely on those programs locally.
You said, make no mistake, it's not about efficiency. Then what is it about?
It is not. It is not about efficiency.
Then what is it about?
I think it is about just the level of cuts, and I think that's where my greatest
No. If the cuts
on
the federal level,
it's not about efficiency.
We overspent. How much did we overspend as a federal government last year? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that these cuts aren't tackling the report about $400 billion in contractual.
Then why would you insult the people who were protesting a tax increase by suggesting that it wasn't about efficiency if you don't even know how much we overspent last year, Freddie?
Because I do know that the impact of those cuts coming down was not something done to say, is this a wasted dollar? It was just, we're going to cut the dollar.
Should the federal government balance its budget?
I do think the federal government should balance its budget.
How does it do that?
Ideally, what they would do is what we do here. They would make sure that every dollar in came in and had, that the balance sheet added up.
But you said you walked past people this morning who believe property tax going up for any Nashvilleian by any amount is unnecessary, and these people are celebrating the chaos of federal cuts. And I'm trying to understand what.
And so, this is where I would say the dollar of, this is where you talk about, if you want to talk about efficiency, it is not just to say we are going to blindly cut some amount in some department. I think if you were really focused on efficiency, you would be measuring those dollars as a part of trying to move toward a balanced budget, not just making indiscriminate cuts. It's exactly the opposite of what we're doing locally.
Is it an efficient use of the taxpayer dollars to spend money suing the federal government for this purpose?
For things that are funding amounts that are already obligated, yes. Like, I do fundamentally believe that congressional authority should be obeyed. I don't think even conservative listeners would say that the White House should supersede congressional authority here.
I would agree with
that's a terrible
and I don't know, and you perhaps can help me understand this, but I don't know of any monies that have been allocated by the previous Congress that have not been honored.
We'll happily send you a list. That's the only thing we're taking legal action on, is those things that we have announced that were previously authorized by Congress that are lawfully entitled to come back to Nashville. Those are the only things. And Matt, I'll be clear with you. We celebrate the things that continue. We've had some programs that they have said 100% are continuing. We celebrate those. The places we are taking legal action are only the ones that are congressionally authorized, lawfully due to Nashville. And I will say, too, we know that there was an election in November that changed the federal landscape substantially. And when White House and Congress together have new approaches to spending, which I know that they will, we will be ready to participate in all of those grant applications. Anything that remains from a discretionary spending standpoint that aligns with what we're trying to do for Nashvilleians locally, we will fully participate. But we're not going to let them change the rules on the fly.
What is the amount of revenue that you expect to increase through the property tax to pay for the programs that you outlined today in the speech?
The total amount goes up. I think if you look at FY25 to FY26 in expenditure growth, I think we're up a few $100 million year over year.
And you addressed, and I want to talk about the juxtaposition between talking about the necessity to go up in the amount, the overall amount that taxpayers will pay in their property taxes moving forward, and the availability of affordable housing. Because as you well know, and you and I have spoken about it in the past, that landlords, those that rent, have those associated property tax costs oftentimes passed along to them. So how, as a leader in the city, do you how do you work both of those concepts at the same time, providing affordable housing for those who are working on, more meager incomes in the city versus the necessity to relook at the property taxes?
Yeah, and it's one of many factors. And if we looked at the cost of any individual home in the city of Nashville, it is certainly the case that what that valuation is and the impact on taxes is a non-zero factor there, but it is also not close to the biggest factor. Typically speaking, it's going to be land value and construction costs and those kinds of things. And so we're looking at the full toolkit there of where we can offer long-term affordability, where I think if you look at it from supply side, we're ultimately going to need to make sure that that combination of infrastructure costs, construction costs, land costs, as you develop housing, as you try to preserve housing, as you use that full toolkit of sometimes incentives, sometimes grants, sometimes low interest loans, sometimes payment in lieu of taxes. We're trying to ensure that we can offer all of the things together, because there's not just one approach that suddenly means you're going to see a neighborhood full of $150,000 starter homes, right? That's the challenge, is that across the board in Nashville, you do see, because of the growth of the city and the success of the city economically, that land values are up almost across the county.
I want to ask you this. You and I, Mayor, have talked many times about this, but I don't think I've asked the question in this way. If you had the ability to make the decision singularly, would you approve license plate readers for the city of Nashville?
Yeah, and I think to your point, what I would do is I would put forward the policy that we have ready to go, ready to present to Metro Council that we are confident could not pass Metro Council right now. We would put that in place, and we would
LPRs have already passed.
Forward.
They've already passed.
The initial contracts have already passed. We have not been able to actually create the full implementation.
The Metro Council says that they're waiting on you.
Well, you might want to go back and check this with them because you've brought the contracts to them for approval? We have not, but I'll tell you what.
Well, then how are they not waiting on you, Freddie?
Because did you see what happened a few weeks ago, Matt? They filed and then withdrew a resolution requesting that we bring the contracts because they weren't even close to enough votes to pass.
So you can't bring anything unless they give you permission to bring it? You can bring the contracts to them, can you not?
We are always in conversation with council members, and I'm telling you right now today, we do not believe the votes are there. We could put them on the record, but I'll tell you.
I just want to get you on record.
We did
yes
put
or no?
them on
yes
the record
or no?
on FUSIS at the end of the year, and they defeated our FUSIS proposal by one vote, and those same council members are not ready to approve the LPR.
So based on your assessment of the efficacy of LPR, I think I got a yes out of you in terms of if you had the decision. So do you believe that is an example of the Metro Council being soft on crime?
No, I believe that is an example of the Metro Council not finding a different balance of privacy versus safety, and it is why it is an important public conversation, and it is where you do see, I think, daylight between the administration's approach and the council's approach and priorities.
I just want to be clear. If I'm misunderstanding this, correct me. The council approved, there was a pilot license plate reader program that was deemed successful. The council approved the contracts to be...
Yeah, but think about this. The Metro Council approved this before the current term. And so this Metro Council is the one that has to approve the contracts that would actually allow us to implement it.
So you don't have the ability in terms of leadership. You say that you want this. Can you not convince the council that this is the right thing to do? Isn't that what being a leader is?
It's certainly a part of the function of leadership to be able to make the case. We continue to try to make the case, and I will say council members tell us over and over again that these are not issues of local trust and confidence, that other changes in the federal and state landscape make them, they are paying attention to leadership at multiple levels right now, Matt.
Wait, so you're saying the council is not comfortable with LPRs because of federal leadership?
I am telling you
that's what you just said, Freddie. You just said the council's not comfortable because of state and federal leadership.
I am telling you that if FUSIS had been brought to the council before the election in November, I think it would have passed.
Much like our property tax increases, we're blaming Donald Trump. That's interesting.
I am not blaming our property taxes on Donald Trump.
You most certainly did. I was in the speech, Freddie. You said
you heard something different than what I said, Matt.
You said based on the instability of federal money and our inability to continue to depend on federal money coming into the city and increase costs, you have to make adjustments based on that. I was sitting there when you said it. What frustrates me, Freddie, is that you seemed to cast aspersions at the people outside during your speech. And if I misheard that or if I perceived it in an incorrect way.
I get it, man. And
because
listen,
I talked to those people. You didn't. You came in a different way. I talked to those people. And some of those people are on a budget, Freddie. They're fixed income people, and they live in Davidson County, and they don't know how they're going to be able to afford a property tax increase. And so it kind of pisses me off when you dismiss them as just Trump people who don't care. They care. They're worried.
I appreciate that. And I have talked to many people in the past several months about the sensitivity of whether property values and property taxes are going to mean they pay more this year or next, and we are deeply committed to focusing on affordability in the city. I'll say what I've also heard, though, and what I've seen from the communications that surrounded the people who gathered there today, who were protesting before they had seen anything about what else is in the budget, was that the signage, the level of messaging suggests that there's an indiscriminate way in which they don't necessarily want us to do anything that